Good
Let's
morning,
do it.
Michael. How are you?
Hey, man, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you very much.
I am awesome. It's great to be here, Martin. Let us
Yes.
get right to AGTP Insights number 135. How does that sound to
Oh,
you? We go live every Monday and Thursday. Today's Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss the most important tech stories in the United States. As I said, it's Thursday, the 20th of August. Let's get right to it, man. We want to talk about a bunch of stuff today. Ornith 1.5 has just released a model that it says trains itself. Generalist AI is actually teaching robots how to learn. Callosum just raised a $100 million seed round, which feels like such a small number in the context of the billions of dollars that other firms are raising, but it's actually quite big. Meta has quietly, kind of behind the scenes, has become one of Microsoft's largest AI customers. And Coreweave signs a multi-billion-dollar deal with Hudson River Trading. And we have some great guests today. Cohen, the founder and CEO at Muan. I think we're just running out of names for companies. Will join us to talk about how AI-enabled business infrastructure is changing the way companies operate and scale. Later in the show, we'll be joined by Dr. Vishal Gauri, the CEO at Seclore, to explore how data-centric security will allow businesses to scale while maintaining control over their most sensitive information. And then finally, Pranay Periwal, the co-founder and CEO at Tova, which is actually a Hebrew word for thank you. So I don't know what that means. Will join us to talk about how social platforms are changing customer acquisition and loyalty for experience-led businesses. Let's talk about Ornith 1.5 training itself first. How does that sound, Martin?
Let's do it. We have such a big show today. Michael, we've never done a show with so many topics. So let's try. Let's try our best to
You think
to
we can
get
get
to
through
all of
5
them.
topics in 10 minutes? Let's see if we can do it. So the important part of Ornith 1.5, it's more than just like this self-improving AI. This model does not sit on a machine and continuously write its own weights, right? Because that's kind of what it seems like it might be. But the self-improvement happens during training. I think this is actually super interesting, right? Because we've seen situations, Martin, where like there's a model out there, it gets trained, and then it gets retrained.
Yes.
And we've talked about this, yeah?
Mhm.
But then during training, but then Ornith generates a task on its own. It builds like its own agentic stuff to attack that task, and then it attempts to do that task. And my presumption is it can do any kind of task, and the resulting task, that the resulting output from that, then feeds back into the next training cycle.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
so this is actually really interesting in the context of, because it's an extension of Ornith 1.0. And the earlier version actually taught the model to build better scaffolds around a fixed set of problems. But now this 1.5 is actually generating the problems. It's going, what is the problem that we already have in the training that we have? And its goal here is to keep what's the right way to explain this, Martin? The training curriculum. I like the way they talk about it like it's school. Because that's what curriculum is, right?
Yes, it is.
Close to the model's current limit rather than depending entirely on a static human-created data set. So static means like unchanging. This is super interesting, right? Because essentially what happens during normal training, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they go out and they get like all this information. They take the information, they leave that information static, they don't change it, and then they train the model on this stuff doing some proprietary stuff, yeah? But what they're saying is, Ornith is looking at this, taking the model, training it, and then going, hey, are we missing something here? Is there something we should add to this? And then it retrains the same model on a dynamic data set that gets created by the model itself. And for some reason, it's deliberately favoring tasks where its success rate is around 20%. So the problem gets harder naturally as the model improves. Okay. Do you want to jump in at all, or do you want some more details here?
I think like basically, which means like they don't have like a fixed data set, but they use like question, answer, right, wrong. They are
So
like creating
they start with that.
They start with that, and then they do like a dynamic data set over time, where the model itself is actually creating his own exercise to actually learn himself. That's
Exactly.
true. That's true, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to go over the model size, right? Because people are still talking about it. They released 3 scales: a $397 billion MOE, so a mixture of experts model, right? A $35 billion MOE model, smaller, and a 9 billion parameter dense model as well. The $35 billion activates only about 3 billion parameters per token. And Ornith says that the 9 billion, it's just such a huge number, but it feels like a small number in the context of the trillions and stuff. But at some level, I don't think it matters that much anymore. can also be quantitized for mobile deployment. So this is interesting, right? Because remember, we always go back to, when we talk about mobile deployment, we always go back to the Apple example of wanting to have stuff on device.
Yes. I think I saw some people saying, like, you mentioned that they have like a very tiny model, right?
Yeah. So they have
Yes.
3, right?
Yeah.
You talk about Ornith, yeah?
Yes, about Ornith. And I think I saw people saying that the smallest one could run on an iPhone. Like the quantized version, like what was the
Quantitized
word?
version.
Quantized version could run like on an iPhone. I think I think I saw something like this. So we are getting close to like being able to run like really good models on device.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, right? I mean, at some point, all this stuff is going to get so optimized. And again, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this, but it does lead me to believe that like how much do you know about Ornith?
Not much, to be honest. Before I saw the news, like I think yesterday or earlier today, I didn't know much about them before.
But you didn't, did you?
No.
And the point that the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm going to admit, like right from the get-go, I don't know anything about Ornith as much as you do. Like I don't know any more than you do. But the point I want to make about this is that if you look, because one of the other things that I wanted to point out about this is that, let me just get back to this point here, is that where is it? Give me a second. So they're saying that some of the capabilities that this models have is very close to 4.6 and 4.8.
Yes.
Okay. And I think that that's really important because essentially one of the thoughts that I've been having over the past few months is, and I think one of the guys we had on ATP Insights today actually said this, right? Because he uses, I think, Cohen, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah, because he said he's using the Alibaba models for his stuff, but that he's kind of indifferent. He's just found that like for the content creation stuff that he wants to do, that's the best. But it leads me to believe, Martin, that the model companies are going to lose some of their leverage because we've never even heard, and we talk about this every single day, whether we're doing it for our show or just amongst ourselves, right? Like how many conversations do we have that aren't related to some sort of artificial intelligence, even when we're not recording? It's a lot. Yeah,
it's a lot, all the time.
No, but it is. It's a lot, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is that we haven't heard of this, and part of the reason why we haven't heard of it in the same way that we've heard of DeepSeek and all these other models, and OpenAI and Claude and ChatGPT. And part of the reason why is that it's getting easier and easier, I believe, to build models, even these MOE models that are good enough. I think I'm just going to keep saying this until everybody's is on board with this. But until people believe that like the model at some level doesn't matter. What do you think?
So actually, I think like this week we had 2 examples of that. We had
the second one?
Razorpay. No, 2 more. We had
Razorpay.
Razorpay launching an LLM. Like they launched a model trained on what? Like I think they said billions of data of transaction that they have because they
think about what Razorpay knows from their payment stuff in India, right?
Yes.
Insane, yeah.
And so they said that look, we use like all of these data to launch a model, and then I think it's Legora, if I'm not wrong. Like I don't remember exactly. Like this one,
the legal company from Europe,
the legal company from Europe who also launched their own model this week. So it looks like it's not only getting easier, Michael, but it's also getting democratized, where a legal company, a payment company, can now actually launch their own model. So I think that we are a very interesting time right now in terms of model. Like we've seen the massive investment made by OpenAI and Anthropic to kickstart the project. Then we had all the open weight model, all the competition coming from China, and now it looks like we enter a phase where, like look at all the latest model release that we've seen, the very good one, like the DeepSeek V4 Flash and all of that, they sit in this range of 300 million parameters, and they are all around that.
300 billion parameters, yeah?
Yeah, sorry, yes, 300
billion I just want to make sure
parameters.
That we have the,
No,
go ahead.
We need to get that right.
But I mean, 300 million still sounds big. That's why. You know what I mean?
So it still sounds big, but the phase before that was to go to 1 trillion, and then 2 trillion, and then 3 trillion,
3 trillion, and then 7 trillion. It was just like trillions and trillions, right?
Everybody was trying to do a bigger and bigger and bigger. But right now, I feel like everybody is just trying to be more helpful and much cheaper as well, right? And when I say helpful, is like, okay, can we be focused on just doing one thing, right? Can we just do coding, like for
But
example,
we
right?
predicted this, Martin. Like I know
Yes,
that
yes,
you've said this before, and I know that
many
I've said
times.
it before, and we've said it together many times. That like what's going
Yeah,
to happen is these models are going to get bloated, like super super large,
yeah,
and then what's going to happen are people are going to be like, we're just using the MOEs. Like we don't need all of these parameters to get this thing done. Let's just have that kind of model. Let's focus on that thing. And I think when
exactly.
people started doing that, they realized maybe even the best models in the world don't need 7 trillion parameters.
Yes, yeah, because like I mean, like let's just take the same example that we get all the time, which is I don't need my LLM to speak Vietnamese, Malay, Tagalog, German, Italian, and all of these things. Just remove all of that.
Right.
Remove a trillion parameters from
What do you have
all the
against
things that
Tagalog
I don't
anyway?
use.
Sorry, I'm just kidding.
I love this language,
So
but I
do
don't
I.
need it. So if that made the model smaller and then it made it cheaper and faster by removing all the stuff that I don't need, and I think the language is the easiest thing to understand, but we can apply this same thought to all the knowledge that I never use, like medicine or cooking or gardening. Like just remove all of this thing. The only thing I do is code. So just give me the coding part of the 3 trillion
Yeah, exactly.
parameters model,
Exactly.
and then maybe boom, we go down to 300 billion. That's enough. That's just the part
Right.
I
And
care.
actually I'm reverse. I
Yeah,
never do coding.
yeah.
I never do. Like, why do I have all of these sort of
Yes, yes,
infrastructure that's
exactly.
associated with coding? Yeah, and I don't need it. Do you know
Yes,
what I mean?
yes.
Like I
Yeah.
don't need it at all. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so that's what I like this idea of like a smaller model, what SLM, like small
Yep.
language model, or vertical small language model, VSLM, which is like just a model that is focused on just one thing, and then we can use 3 or 4 models based on what we want to do. So one that is focused on one thing, one that is focused on something else, and so on. It looks like we are going into that direction right now, and we start with agentic coding. It looks to me that everybody focus on this part right now because that's the largest share of the market. But I think the broader trend is that we are doing much smaller models right now that are good enough, that are really, really helpful. We can do a lot of things with them, much smaller, much more focused, much cheaper. And I think this is opening the door to the same process, but into other areas like legal, for example.
Yeah. Can I say this about the
Yeah.
performance too? Like some of these numbers are not 100% corroborated, meaning not 100% confirmed, but the headline results for the benchmark testing that have been done on this model, at least initially, are pretty good. And
Okay.
remember, I like to use this terminology, good enough. I'm just going to keep using it. On their current published numbers, okay, the 397 billion parameter model scores 86.1 on terminal bench,
Okay.
Opus 4.8, 85.
Okay.
So close, even if it was 83
Mm-hmm.
versus 85, it's not like miles away. And on
No, very
deep
close.
SWE, Ornith scores 56, Claude 59.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So like, do I need
No, exactly.
4.8 if this is like close enough?
If it's close enough, if it's a tenth of the price, that's very quick, huh? That's really quick.
Exactly. I'm a value guy.
Exactly, I'm a value guy as well, and so that's what I think we are living in a very interesting time right now. Like of like all of these smaller models that are coming cheaper, faster, and I think it's, at the end of the day, it's really good for us as a consumer. I don't know if we're gonna go like all the way, Michael, to like okay, everyone will be able to build their own models, but maybe why not? And if this one is actually the first proof of concept that we can actually create a loop with our own input, like we start from our input and then we create a loop and then we can just like get to where we want and fully customize to what I need, and then we don't need any more context, and I don't need to put don't use M dash into every prompt that I use. But
You're
like,
a
but
big thing for sure.
no, but it's so
No,
representative
I get
of
it.
a
I get it. I get it.
fundamental problem. You see what I
No,
mean? Like
no,
it is such a stupid thing to do, like
it
to
is.
just put like all of your instruction into every prompt because from one chat to another, the LLM just doesn't remember what's going on. Like
Right.
we need to be able to put this information into the
Yeah. You don't
language
like
model
that. You don't
itself.
like the dashes. And my two things are, please do not give me stacking examples. No one talks like this. Like no
Exactly.
one talks like this. Right. And the second thing is no one talk I have three things actually that kill me. One is
Uh,
the second thing is, why are you saying it's not this thing, it's that thing? Am I? I'm not. Like it's apparently politically incorrect to use the R word, so I'm not going to use it. But like, am I that stupid? Are the readers that stupid? Like, it's not that thing. It's this thing instead. Okay, I get it. And the last thing is, the entire world talks about valuations, the value of anything in which currency, Martin?
US dollar.
So why are we giving me renminbi numbers? If I talk to someone and go, that's 12 billion renminbi, they're just going to look at me with their eyes glazed over. You know that, right? The model doesn't know that?
That's like the post we did on the Razorpay model using
Yes,
1
in
to 2
lakhs.
lakh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
1 to 2 lakh. I thought
One
that was
to
really,
two
really
lakh.
funny. Exactly. I think that was really, really funny. But yeah, but this is exactly the type of example where you just want to put this type of information directly into the model. Just use US dollar all the time. Don't do this, don't do that, because that's not the way things are done. But like, this shouldn't be instruction. It should be part of the training. And so if tomorrow we can just train or post-train or fine-tune, like whatever method you want to use, I don't really like the way to get there doesn't matter to me at all. The intent is just to be able to put our own data and own instruction directly into the model itself. So now the prompt and the output is going to be so much more simple, so much simpler. We're gonna get to a level of helpfulness from the AI that is going to be next level the day that we don't need to do like all of this crazy second brain and knowledge base and like all of these things. I mean, I know a lot of startups who are building into this space. I think their biggest risk is that we can just tomorrow just put our data and our prompt directly into the model. And if Ornith is building into that direction, it may come on the market faster than expected, Michael.
Exactly. So, and part of the bigger story here, Martin, is like they're not doing this on their own. They're not doing this in a vacuum either. This is part of a larger sort of research development apparently that's happening in the AI and in the model space, where they're trying to build these models that actually rebuild themselves, that retrain themselves. So, but the fact is that they've actually come out with this and been one of the first people to actually point this out. So, and the idea here is that like there are still checkpoints in between. The model just doesn't like automatically go out and do stuff, but it does make suggestions for things, and it recurses then to go out and then does some retraining. This is like super interesting stuff. Yeah.
Super interesting. Super interesting. Love that. Love that. Love that. Let us know what you think in the chat. Do you like this idea? Now I really want to try. Like you said, this is what I mean. Like now I feel like in the last month or so, we've seen a lot of new ideas, a lot of new cool things, right? And so when you have Opus 5 who just come on the market and nobody really cares, so like there's not like real, like there's not really something new, something like where you're like, oh wow, this is going to be something different, something I have to try. Whether because the price is so low, like DeepSeek, for example, and so you wonder how it's possible to get so good at such
It's
a low
something or
price.
anything. Yeah.
Yes, and or now we have like a new way of training the model. Then at some point, my job, we are going to also have all the new of all the new models based on the world models. So like the AI will basically train themselves with experience from the real world, right? Like so, like the same way we learn as humans, just like go do something and fall and learn and hurt yourself and try, and then you are not going to do it again, right? Like this type of experience that we have and how we learn as human, like there's a lot of people who are building models that learns this way as well. Like for example, Yann Lecoun from France. So we are going to see these models as well. Like it's going to be super interesting time to see like how all of that goes.
Yeah, agreed. And again, I want to point out to people that this is something you and I have been talking about for months now as well, particularly as we dig deeper and deeper into the updates and stuff like that on all of these models, right? And that is LLMs are not the end game for where artificial intelligence is going, right? So this idea that like Yann LeCun is going out and building a different kind of model should not be shocking to anybody who's watched the development of any kind of technology, right? And I think let's just do something really simple. You had like the first operating systems for PCs were very simplistic. Then you dropped a windowing on top of it, and people were just like, "Whoa, this is a revelation." Do you know what I mean? And it took Apple to get the windowing there. Microsoft then copied it. But I'm just saying, like the first iteration of anything is never like DOS was just like the beginning of, hey, we can use computers to do stuff. And once that happened, then the ancillary and supplementary things that got built around them were way better, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Perfect example, again, Lotus 1.2.3 was the first spreadsheet program, but it only worked on DOS.
Mhm.
And when Microsoft came out with Windows, they put Excel into Windows, and it was just like 1.2.3 died. They could never catch up. They could never catch because they never thought about a windowing environment or switching back and forth between. So once that happened, it was over, and I think the same thing's going to happen in the AI space. But it does bring up this sort of constant reminder of things that I do like to talk about. Just give me 1 second, as I like to do. Give me 1 second, Martin. You know where we're going here.
I know very well.
No, but I think it's indicative, right? Give me 1 second. S. We're back down below the IPO price.
Back below the IPO price, so we are back below
133.
133. Okay.
Yeah, so 133.07, down 4%, almost, well, down 6.7% in the last 5 days, down 4% today. I'm just saying that, like,
It's very volatile, huh?
it's volatile because there's so many moving pieces to this. But the point about this is that, like, the stuff that even SpaceX is building today, and if some of their valuation is based on the artificial intelligence business that they're building, and we can go back and forth on the infrastructure side of this versus the model side of this, 132.84. But the point is that we're still in the earliest days. And again, if you look at every sort of technology cycle, you'll see that even some of the companies that were powerhouses in the earliest days of the development of their vertical are gone. I'm not suggesting SpaceX is going to be gone. I'm not suggesting OpenAI. Well, OpenAI maybe. But I'm not suggesting all these companies are going to be gone. But I'm not necessarily saying that just because they were first, they're still going to be around.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And to be honest, I feel we are very lucky to witness that firsthand, right? Like, like we see, it's absolutely an amazing moment in time, right? Like, so,
no, agree.
like, I mean, you've lived through the internet revolution. It must have been insane as well, right? Like going from no internet to internet. I think it must have been like crazy. Now I feel like we go from no AI to actually AI. It's actually super nice to see and to live through that and to follow the news and to use the technology ourselves as well, and to talk to so many people who are using it and building stuff, right? So I think it's gonna be a very exciting, I don't know, 5 years ahead of us, 10 years maybe, right? Until like the dust settle and we can then know what we do. But now it's so early, but there's so many things. That's why I'm always so excited about these new ideas, because it's new, it's exciting, it could work, right? It could work much better than everything, because we still don't know what's gonna work in 5 years or in 10 years. We're still so early that every new idea can work, every new idea can be how we use AI in 5 years, and so just create a lot of excitement.
So we can make the case, Martin, that personal computing or microcomputing operating systems had a 50-year development cycle.
Okay, wow, 50 years. Okay.
Yeah, that ended kind of with Microsoft Windows and Mac OS.
Okay, yeah.
And seriously, and if you think about it, like, what has been the biggest development in Microsoft Windows or Mac OS in the past 10 years?
Nothing. Yeah, you're right. It's just like incremental improvement of their 2000.
But even the increments have gotten so much smaller. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I remember when Mac OS 10 when Mac 10 first shipped, I was like, whoa, that's a big difference. And then every year they would come out with like new stuff that you couldn't do before, some old stuff that they didn't include, and all this other stuff. And then you were like, wow, I need to have it, blah. And then you're like, nothing changed.
And there is no new OS neither, right? Like there is like every month 3 or 4 guys will just build a new OS, you know. And
right, so that's the point I'm trying to make is that, and I want to stop this topic in a second, right? Because we have a lot to get to today. But the point I'm trying to make here is that once that development, let's say, took 50 years, and I'm rounding, right? Okay. I'm rounding. But everything's happening faster now because you have way more technology at your fingertips, and way more people have way more access to that technology. And in the same way that we were just talking, right? Like Ornith just came out with a new model, but no one has come out with a new operating system in forever. And I think that what's going to happen here is, let's say we get that everything happens twice as fast. It still means we have another 15 years of this.
Yes.
Right, because say whatever we want about how long OpenAI, how long GPT has been out, but OpenAI has been working on this for years before they put out GPT, right? And we know that Google's been working on it for So 2006, it's 10 years. So now we have another 15 years that I believe it could be another 10 years, but it's not another 2 years.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
I mean, until the big labs know what to do with the model.
Yeah, exactly. They just figured out what to do with the first model that they had. So how are they going to know what to do with their next model? Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, very interesting time. We will keep talking about Ornith and all the new innovation and this because it is just so cool. So good work from the team, first of all, and looking forward to see what they're gonna do.
Okay, let's talk about generalist AI teaching
Another,
robots how to learn. No?
yes, another super cool topic. Let's do it.
So generalist AI is Gen 1.5. This to me is interesting because they are saying that they're changing the way, Martin, that a robot can be taught. Because think about it, if you have to just sit down at a terminal, and not a terminal, but like with a keyboard and just tell the robot, lift your left finger, lift your, you know what I mean? Like do all that stuff. What they're saying is instead of collecting task-specific training data and then retraining the model, a person can show, and this is the way, this is getting to be super interesting, right? The robot a physical task once, like I'm just making it up, but like how to write your name, how to pick up something, how to juggle.
Okay.
And that demonstration becomes part of the model's context, and the robot attempts to do the task immediately. And generalist calls this physical prompting. I call this really scary learning.
But I mean, like, think about it. Like, this is how we learn as human as well. I mean, we
That's
do two
my point.
things.
That's why it's so
Yeah.
scary.
We do two things. Like, we look at somebody who can show us, right? And very
Yeah, show
early
me
on, it's
how
our
many times
parents.
have you said that to somebody? Show me that one more time, kind of thing.
Yeah, like, yeah. And then we try, we experiment, and then we pretty much have this model in our mind most of the time where we know what it should look like because so we are able to remember what we've seen the example, and then we try until we can get it done. For example, juggling, that's a good example. Everybody knows what is the output that we want, but nobody is able to do it at first. But then if you try one time, you fail, two times, you fail. After a couple of hours, you may be able to do it on your own without someone who keep showing you. Basically, you've just seen one time, that's enough to know what the output should look like, and then you can get there. And so yeah, that's really how we learn ourselves. This is really smart, I think, to do that.
So here's another thing. First of all, I remember teaching myself how to juggle.
Yes, I remember as well, Michael.
No, but I do. And what did you use to, what were you holding to juggle? Three of what? Three what?
Rocks.
Yes, well, I had three batteries, three double D batteries.
Okay.
And because I didn't want them to drop on the floor, I literally sat on the floor in front of my bed so my parents couldn't hear anything falling on the floor. And I juggled, and if I dropped it, it fell on my mattress, not on the floor. But it didn't take me that long to figure it out. At first, it was just like, how do you do this thing?
Yeah. It's actually
and literally by the time the day was over, I was juggling behind my back.
Yeah. Yes. I agree.
Okay. So why is that any different for a robot that has enough dexterity and dexterity built in to be able to handle those things? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah. And plus, like, which means like there's a lot of things going on here, which means like the robots needs to see, he needs to have an idea of what the desired output. So he needs like to remember, he needs to save this, he needs to be able like to monitor like what's going on, right? Like with its camera and stuff, to realize it's wrong, and then to do another test to get closer to the result, hopefully, still realize it's wrong, do this loop long enough until it's successful, and then realize he's successful, and then save it. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah,
but
there's a ton of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Can I also give some more math around this? Because I think it's important.
Go ahead.
You know, because I joked at the beginning that, whoa, this is scary.
Yeah.
But let's just dig a little bit deeper so people can understand it's actually not that scary.
Okay.
So this generalist AI is 1.5 model. It's a large multimodal foundation model but it has a 30-second context window.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so a physical demonstration can only be like 3 to 12 seconds long.
Okay.
And none of the model weights are changed in real time. Like none of it changes. Okay. And they are saying that the standard, so across 10 short physical tasks, they are reporting an average success rate of 59%. So not super high.
But
it has a plus. Say again.
Yeah, I mean it's starting somewhere.
It's not bad. It's not zero. You know what I mean? Like again, I'm just trying to put it into context, right?
Yeah.
It also has a plus minus 10% standard deviation.
Okay.
Okay. You're a math guy. Okay. That's using a single demonstration and no additional training. So for people that don't know, like what a 10% standard, like is that big, is that small? It's actually pretty large. What does it mean? So if they're reporting a 59% success rate with a 10% plus or minus standard deviation, it means roughly that many of the observations would fall somewhere between 49% success and 69%, right? Because that's 10% up and 10% down. Now, the standard deviation is relative to a mean. That mean is going to be 59%. It's a deviation of about 17% of the average, which is large, which means that it suggests that the system is not performing uniformly across tasks or runs. The only reason why I'm pointing this out, Martin, is not to say like this is dumb or that sucks or this is bad, but just to say like, here's a starting point. They're already working on this. And one of the things we said earlier is that the iteration scale on this stuff is just much faster than it's ever been before. Again, not only because the compute's better and the connectivity's better, but because more and more people have access and the ability to train things that couldn't have happened. Like in the old days, Martin, all this stuff would have happened at like Stanford, at MIT, at one big university in China, and maybe at Cambridge. Do you know what I mean? And I'm kind of simplifying things to make the point. But now every university in the world and literally any kid that has enough money to like put together a robot. Do you remember when we were at AI Engineer in Singapore?
Yes, we met some people doing robots. Yeah.
But we met a guy who had a robot in a box. Like,
Yes.
it was the weirdest thing. He's like, "Oh God, my robot's on the way from Malaysia." Do you know what I mean? It sounded so normal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's like my sister's on the train. She'll be here in a couple of hours. He's like, my robot's just about to arrive. I'm like, is this the way this works?
It was still really, really expensive. I remember it was like the robot was like $40,000 or $50,000. Huh? So it was
Yeah,
not
but it was
like
still on the way. Do you know what I mean? Like that seems so weird to me. Like, and the way he talked about it was so normal. He's like, I'll have a burger, I'll have some fries, I'll have a robot and a comb. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It just seemed so normalized. So, but the point here is that like, when I talk about the standard deviation, it's just to let people know this is a starting point and an interesting way to train in a way that's different. And we talked about it in the previous segment that this is not kind of LLM related in the same way. And that now that people understand that things can be trained and that there are different ways to train them, right? Because OpenAI is not building the GPT series, whether it's Soul or Moon or whatever it is, doesn't have a way to do this necessarily. But now Gen 1.5 does, because they're focused on a different vertical part of the learning process for now physical robots.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is interesting to me. What do you think?
I think if it works, it can revolutionize everything. Because like, I don't know like up until now how we have been doing it, but if we have bin coding, like a robot like can move here, like do this, do that. Like for example, like how do they code the big robots in Japan who build cars, for example? Like how does that work? Like these are like a developer who need to say like, okay, we are going to code every step, we're gonna put some sensors and all of that. I mean, just think about it, like it must be a nightmare to code a new robot. And plus that for something very specific, something very small, like it really makes the thing so much harder. So if tomorrow either a human or imagine we could do that in a completely virtual environment as well. Like we could imagine like using video games technology, for example, to like create some simulation that the robots can actually learn from so much faster. And now we could imagine a world where I don't know, like the robots could do thing maybe that once again at a pace, like the pace of learning, the pace of improvement could be super quick. And yeah, I mean, if it works, it would be super cool, I think.
Right. And let's make a distinction here, right? Like the robots you talked about that are building cars, they're doing, each one of those robots does a very specific task, and it does it thousands of times a day or hundreds of times a day. And that is also difficult to do. But once it's done, it's done.
Yes.
Right. But like, and again, I'm using juggling, not that they've talked about juggling in their examples necessarily that I know of, but the reason why I talk about juggling is sometimes that rock that you're training with doesn't actually go to the location you want it to. No matter how good you are at juggling, and you've got to like move your eyes around, right? Because eye-hand coordination is really important here, yeah? You know, plenty of times, Martin, when you were juggling rocks, you're like, oh, shucks, that's not the right place, but you can still grab it. And you can get back to juggling normally. But putting cars together or screwing in a bolt somewhere, it's the same thing over and over again. So that type of training is distinguished from this type of
Yep.
training.
Mhm.
But at some point, here's the other thing too. At 59%, right? The thing that Gen AI is saying is that they're not ready to do sort of general work reliably.
Mhm.
But that's fair, yeah?
Mhm.
Okay. They explicitly describe the tasks that it can do as kind of like short horizon stuff. We talked about that
Okay,
already,
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
the window is really short.
Mhm.
And commercial systems like the one you're talking about that cars use will generally need success rates far closer to like 99%. And my guess is probably higher than that. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
But if you wanted to make a bet with me, not that you would disagree with me in this case, I think that we'll get to that 99% for some specific tasks sooner rather
Okay.
than later.
I think we will. I think we will.
Of course, that's why I wouldn't
Yeah.
even suggest a wager with you, because I think we'll agree
Yeah.
on this. It's just like, what is the time frame?
Yes. Do you also we remember that when we were at AI.engineer in Singapore, we met this guy doing robots with a brainwave. You remember? So like
Yeah,
you could also like control the robot. So it was not like this type of robot. It was more like a robotic arm, right? Like you control a robotic arm with your brainwave. So it's not like an autonomous robot who learn and then redo it by himself. But why not? Maybe tomorrow it could also work like this. You could, I don't know, somehow like control the robots, like make him do what you want, and then he just learn that, and then he just knows, you know. Like I think like the bottom line here is that there is a lot of people with big budgets working on robotics right now, and it looks like we are making a lot of progress, like much more than we've been in the last 5 years or in the last 10 years, because it's not new. We've been working on robotics for a while, but it looks like now I feel we are really close to the chat GPT moment where we actually have one use case that works really well, you know, like just one thing, and then it becomes almost mass market, and then we can say, okay, from there we can build on that. I think we are getting really, really close. And I feel like the world championship that happens right now in China, like start to prove it. Like right now, like they are doing like this massive competition of robots, like the Olympics of robots, my
Do,
god.
do you know how many companies in China participated in this robot sort
It's
of thing?
huge. It's like 600, no? And
Something like that. It was
and
300, but still, it's 300 companies, Martin.
it's from
That's
all around the world.
insanity.
And it's from
Yeah,
all around the world. It's not
yeah, yeah.
it's not only China. But it's like
No,
maybe you're right. Maybe there's like 300 companies and like 600 robots or something like this. But like they made them run, they made them jump, they made them like do plenty of things, and then they give them medals just like the Olympics. Like I think this is such a great example of, like, you know, when you use uh, entertainment, which sports and video games are also part of it,
yeah,
to
for sure.
actually build tech, right? Like when you actually use the people who are ready to spend money to have a good time, plus the sponsors who are also willing to be exposed to this audience, all of this makes money to fund our R&D. It makes money to go back to the robotic company to make better robots, faster robots, stronger robots. And so I think, to me, that's a sign that now we are getting in a phase where, okay, like these companies become more mainstream and have more funding, they have more income, they have like ways to make money that will make them accelerate much faster. And it's not only something in the labs anymore. Now it's something like that is much more public. And yeah, I think this is a really interesting moment in time for robotics.
So imagine a robot
Mhm.
that can train another robot, because I've
Yeah,
spent a lot of time telling you about it. This company in Japan called Fanuc, I forget its stock
yeah,
code, but I can
yeah,
find out that they have
yeah,
these factories at the base of Mount Fuji that they're robots building robots, and they've had them there for
yeah,
2 decades. Yet I'm
yeah.
sure that they're way more advanced today than they were back then. And back then they weren't letting anybody in the factory.
So imagine now.
Right. So imagine now what's going on there. So who
Yeah,
knows what they've come up with.
yeah.
But again, if a robot can prompt another robot with a demonstration,
Mhm,
do you know what I mean?
mhm,
Then the
mhm.
training just becomes so much easier.
Or like I love this idea of like just you take the knowledge from one robot and you copy it to another robot, right? Like the knowledge transfer can happen with robotics. We can't do that with human. You need to train, you need to take notes, you need to save ideas, you need to write books and stuff like that. But in a way, it's very inefficient. A database is way more efficient. Like if you have a database that you can copy paste from one person to another, and everything that one person knows is transferred to the next one, like without any loss, without anything, this is way better. And that's what the robots can do. So like think about like how it changes everything the day that works. Like we can.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at myself.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, what's one of the most important things about learning is focus.
Learning.
You got to be focused, right?
Yes.
Imagine a robot with ADHD. I mean, it's almost learned something, and it's like distracted by like some other silver object over there. It's like, I'm almost good at juggling.
I think robots will just get a hardware and we're gonna just put knowledge into them and it's gonna be really efficient.
Sorry,
And I
it
think
just
this
makes
is
me
really,
laugh.
I think this is going to be really, really cool if that type of stuff happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, once they figure out, and we can jump to the next topic in a second, but once they figure out how to get this closer to like 90 something percent, right?
Yeah.
How to make the training better, how to make the learning better. There are going to be some really interesting ways, because then the model at some level becomes less part of the equation, whereas the learning part of the model becomes way more important.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And
At
the
le-
ability to teach becomes way more important.
and probably at least for the first 15 years, right? Like just the time that we gather all of these knowledge robots, right? Like we get to build a massive database of like how the robots needs to do this thing, and then maybe we can think about that just transferring this knowledge from one robot to another. Maybe like people are going to start selling, like knowledge that they have built for robots to like sell to another robots. Like we would imagine that some like the same way we buy plugins, for example, right now, but like you like teach your robots how to do this thing, pay me $20 and I just give you the skills, like we should imagine some crazy stuff like that, and for some period of time create a market for skills and then until like we get to the point where all the robots knows everything, then yeah, we're gonna be like in a more stable environment, let's say. But I feel like we are really, really close to having one use case that everybody wants to try.
What do you think it is? So the Unitree actually demonstrated, and somebody else actually demonstrated as well, a robot trying to run around a track for 100 meters, and it was just like, it beat Usain Bolt's time, which should not be surprising since the robot doesn't have to eat, it doesn't get, you know what I mean? Like it can maintain pace, but it's still kind of cool because there's balance involved there and stuff.
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing was at the end, it just like ran into a wall.
Yeah. It just didn't stop.
Which is kind of cute in a way, it's kind of endearing. It's just like, ran into a wall.
I have the video somewhere, but I didn't take time to find it.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It was like pinned up somehow on my LinkedIn profile, and I just kept watching it over and over again. I didn't want to watch it. but the point is that we're getting to the point where our ability to manufacture dexterity, right, is just is becoming like really important.
Yep.
And just imagine all the things, sorry to interrupt you, but imagine all the things that Unitree is learning by the experiment it's doing at Haneda Airport, which we talked about a couple of months ago on the show. I think they're doing luggage handling, but just imagine all the stuff and all the data that they gather on like what it really means to handle different shapes and different sizes of luggage. Because when we say luggage, you think like every suit, not you, but like one may think that the suitcases are all the same size and the same weight. But here's the thing, Martin. Sometimes you can have a suitcase going around and it can only have like a pair of underwear in it and a pair of pants, and it could be like big. You know what I mean? Like just bought it, I want to put something in it and bring it back with me. Or it can be filled with like 3 weeks worth of clothing and 10 pairs of shoes and a brick that I like, from the Berlin Wall or something. It could be super heavy. Like we've actually had suitcases that are 30 kilograms.
Yes.
You can't tell by looking at it, it's that heavy, which is why when it comes out of the taxi, you say to the guy, don't grab that. It's heavier than it looks. So imagine training a robot to figure out how to like just lift it a little bit at the beginning, right? Because that's how you know how heavy it is.
Yeah.
For someone who doesn't know, but that's like a nuanced thing that a human has figured out over time.
Yes.
Right. By lifting a piece of luggage and hurting their back, let's say, or like, I mean, a guy like you is so strong that it doesn't really matter.
But yeah, no, it's true. And when like all the things that they learn into one environment, they can apply that to another environment, right? Like
Correct.
this is why this thing like that makes us laugh, right? Like Michael, look, I found the video of the robots who hit the electrical bolts. So yeah, it's funny, but the more important is that these people they are building solution to make the robots run fast with all the balance and with all these things that needs
Like
to
the way it
happen, right?
falls down.
Yeah. And then all of this knowledge that they develop when they build these games can then be applied into something else, right? And so
Exactly.
that's why like sports gaming are so interesting as a lab for R&D, and then very often they give us like a lot of learning, a lot of knowledge that then become useful for something else.
So, Martin, one of the other things that, and maybe we can talk about this a little bit longer, but one of the other things that I think about a lot with robotics and also with electric cars, because I don't think robots and electric cars are that far apart fundamentally.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about an autonomously driving electric vehicle
Yeah.
with a huge battery in it and a big
Mm-hmm.
brain inside of it,
Mm-hmm.
what's the difference between that
Mm-hmm.
and a humanoid robot, except for the shape and the things that it's built to accomplish?
Yep.
But one of the things that, so Carmen Callisto and I were talking about today on ATP Insights, when we were talking about fleet management and modernization and where artificial intelligence fits in here. And again, we haven't talked about AI at all in the context of the robots necessarily, not directly. But one of the things I asked her was, how important is the vehicle to vehicle communication? And she was like, that's key, because once cars become more autonomous, they're going to have to communicate with each other on distance and on time and like what the next one's going to do. Look, one of the things you get taught when you're driving, at least in the United States, is to become a really great driver, you have to be able to anticipate what the other drivers around you are doing. And there's no physical connectivity. There's no intellectual connectivity. Like I have to look at another driver and be like, what is that guy thinking about doing? Right. That's what the signal's for. So I know they're turning. That's why when a guy doesn't signal, you're like, what were you doing? But if the
Yeah.
robots and the cars, can communicate with each other directly, because
Then
they're connected devices, just think about what can be accomplished. Go ahead.
then like it makes everything so much more safe, basically, so much safer,
And also
because
more efficient, because you don't have to guess. Now
it's
you're not
so much
anticipating what
efficient.
someone's
You're
going to
right.
do. Now you're knowing what the other guy's going to do.
You're right. Like let's say in a world where everybody use autonomous driving, okay,
Yep. Yeah.
and all the cars can speak to each other,
Should be no
then
accidents.
that's like the safest world. That's the safest potential that we have, right? Because
Yeah.
when a car just arrive, you just say to everybody, I'm here, basically. I turn right, that's my speed. I'm gonna be there in X amount of time. It's super simple, right? Like all of this math is like no brainer. It's like there is no problem at all. And so yeah, if like
Yeah.
all the cars are autonomous, like there is nobody who who pass at the red light. There is nobody who don't stop at the stop.
No
Like
one gets
there's
cut
nobody.
off. Do you know what I mean?
Nobody that gets cut off. There is no people who are going over the limits, right? So yeah, no, it feels like a great use case. You're right. I've never thought about the vehicle to vehicle communication, but yeah, it makes ton of sense, and
I always
it's actually
thought about this for so long.
yeah.
And one of the other things, like Martin, have you ever been driving on the highway? So you're going 120 kilometers an hour, and some guy like drives up right behind you. Do you know what I mean? He wants to pass you, but he's so passive aggressive. He drives up right behind you.
He's like just here.
Yeah, like just here, like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just like this.
Yeah.
What is your reaction to that?
You're just like, what are you doing?
No. Be a little more aggressive. What's your real reaction to that?
I won't say it. I won't say it. We
Fine,
are
I'll
on
say.
a family show.
No, I'll say.
Okay, go ahead.
I hit the brakes.
You hit the brakes.
Of course, because I want that guy to get scared that he's going to hit me.
Don't go behind my girl. That's the tip.
Well, don't ride up the rear of me like at 120 kilometers an hour. What are we doing? Anyway, but the point is that if his car and my car were autonomously driving, that situation would never occur, because he'd be two car lengths behind me. He would never violate that. And the technology inside the car would not allow that violation. And you know this, again, while I was talking to Carmen this morning about the roads and the modernization of the roads in Singapore. And one of those things she said was like, they are now starting to enforce speed limits inside the car in the same way that they do in Dubai and in the UAE. Right? Because you've been in a taxi in Dubai, Martin. You're like, hurry up. And the guy's like, I can't go faster than 75.
Yeah. I mean, which makes ton of sense. I've always wondered, like, if the speed limit is 130 kilometers an hour in France, why do we sell cars that are like that can go faster than that? Like the faster you can go is 130 kilometers an hour.
Right. So
Like
how come it goes up to 260 on my car?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what are we
yeah.
doing?
Why is it just possible, right? Like it makes no sense. So that's why I always thought that would make sense. But if tomorrow we have like cars that can speak to each other because they are all autonomous and plus like they have like sensors and stuff like that, and they can discuss. I mean, they can send information to each other. Let's say that they have like a like a field of information that they can send and receive that is really large. Like, let's say like not like just 100 meters, maybe 1 or 2 kilometers. They can really see through, then they can slow down, they can prevent traffic, they can say like, look, there's gonna be like a lot of people in this in this area, so let's just slow down now so we don't like add more to the confusion. Or the opposite, like there's nobody right now who is blocking this turn, so let's just go, right? And then
Yeah.
like we can imagine a lot of positive use case that we can't really imagine right now, but like once it happens, I think it could be really useful in a lot of ways.
So I believe that cars will actually be able to travel faster
Mm-hmm.
on average than they do with humans driving when they're autonomously driven, and that autonomous driving actually works properly.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing. If grandma's driving a car,
Mm-hmm.
she's not going like above 80 kilometers per hour.
Of course, never.
But if her grandchild is driving, that dude could be going 150. And that's where even if there are only 2 cars on the road, that's where the danger starts, right?
Yes.
Because that guy's going to get really frustrated behind grandma, and grandma's going to get really scared.
Mm-hmm.
And she may miss an exit or
Mm-hmm.
miss a turn. And that's when you have accidents. Or like you can create tons of scenarios like this. But if the cars can only go 120, grandma's still going to go 120. She's going to be sitting in the back, like having a Danish and a cup of coffee. And her grandson or somebody her grandson's age is going to be driving at 120 because he can't go any faster. No one's going to miss any exits. No one's going to miss any turns.
Yeah.
And there are going to be fewer exits. And I think the same thing's going to happen in the humanoid robotic space, where those things are all communicating with each other, and they're distancing themselves or communicating in a way that makes each individual task that they're doing more efficient because they're working in unison as opposed to working against each other. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, this is highly possible, you're right. And communication between robots or cars is going to be way more efficient than communication with a human. Like, it's just going to be working, it's going to be coding, right? It's going to be like one signal to another. There will be no, like, okay, last night you know, like you said this thing, but I didn't like, or
Right.
Bob was
There's no
late.
emotion.
There is no emotion, or Bob was late, or Bob didn't show up today, or we have this new guy in the team, he has no idea how to do this thing. This is never going to happen, right? Like, so the robots are just
Can you
going
imagine
to...
like a passive aggressive robot? I've been thinking about this all weekend, actually.
Yeah, I've been thinking about your way of doing this. It's really
All
bad.
weekend. It really sucks.
It's really bad.
And yet I'm coming closer to you. We may fight.
No, I don't think the robots will get to that point. We are just going to send
hope
signal
not.
to each other, and it's going to work really well. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, I think it's going to be very efficient. Love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Let's switch topics again. So Callosum, we talked about,
Yeah.
raised $100 million seed round,
Seed round.
led by Atomico, which is a very well-known investor, with participation from even the UK sovereign AI funds. This is a UK company. And this financing comes only, 6 months after the company emerged from stealth, which I don't normally love, but okay, with $10 million in initial funding without any sort of valuation disclosed.
Okay.
So what makes Callosum interesting is that they're not building another large AI model. It's not really building another chip either. It's building the software layer between the two of them. We've spoken about this, right? So every company that has chips that do software and models that do software, there's a communication layer between both of them.
Yes.
And the concept, and I like companies that like operate around simple concepts. Okay. And these companies that like have the basic ideas really simple, I think have an easier way of succeeding because they're not trying to do something ridiculously complex. And if you break life into simple things, it's easier to solve. Go ahead. You were going to say?
Also, I feel like every real thing in life is actually pretty simple to explain. Like
Agreed.
if it's hard to explain, it means that either you didn't fully understand what's going on, or you are trying to make something that don't exist. Like, and that rule, I think, applies to most of stuff in life. If it's not simple, you just didn't get it. So yeah, that's why I think that when it's very simple to explain, I mean, it's when it's simple to explain, right? Like when it's simple to say, okay, this is what they do, not when it's simple to do. That's a very different story, right?
Yeah. But I do agree with you that everything is like, if you can't simplify something into its
Yes.
component parts, it really means you don't understand it. You're like,
Yeah.
well, what do you mean by that?
Exactly.
So their contention here is that AI workloads increasingly contain different types of work and different models and different processors have different strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing is they're breaking these workloads into much smaller tasks, as I just suggested, and they route each task toward the combination of model and hardware that can execute it most efficiently. And again, I love these types of businesses. They sit way up here, they look down below and see the most effective and efficient place to do something, and they drive that thing, whether it's to the right chip or to the right model or to the right communication mode to do this. And they have a cool name for it. They call it heterogeneous intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah. And its newer product language described their underlying system as programmable heterogeneity and the commercial services tailored inference. So I just love this idea, right? Because the AI infrastructure is becoming, and this is good, or this means that there's going to be a lot more innovation here. AI infrastructure itself is becoming much less uniform. And this normally happens,
Yeah.
Martin, when there's innovation in a space. And again, if you go back and look at the operating system history, there were literally hundreds of OSs before they consolidated around what we have today. And they were not uniform at any level in the same way that this is happening here. Yeah. So we know that the industry sort of generalized, at least up until now, around GPUs and CPUs as the communication mechanism.
Yeah.
Is that fair? But the next thing, and we talked about this in, I think, our first segment when we talked about like the size of the model, 7 trillion parameters, 3 trillion, whatever it is, then now people are going, okay, that was cool. But can we do this with just like 350 billion parameters?
Yeah.
Right. And what that is they're trying to economize, like make things more economic, more economical, actually. So, and it doesn't mean, I don't mean in a money way. I mean in an efficiency way, right? You can say like, you can get to a different place in a much more economic way. It doesn't mean you're paying less or paying more. It just means you're getting there faster in a way that's like more effective and efficient. And I think this is one of the things that they're trying to do. Sorry, go ahead.
Which at the end of the day in tech is one of the most important things, right? Like if you can be economical, if you can be more efficient, if you can be faster, if you can just like optimize everything to be able to run more on the same thing or be faster or be cheaper, this is golden. This is exactly what you want, and that's one of the hardest problems to solve. Like it is never black or white. It's always complicated. Like every time Michael like builds something and it gets slow, I'm like, no. Because I know it's not a simple solution. It's not like it's just slow because there is this one thing that doesn't work well. No. It's probably like the combination of 25 wrong things, and there's nobody who tells you this is these 25 wrong things that are going wrong. And it's like 0.1% here, 1% here, 0.2% here. That's like at the end of the day make your thing become slow, but you have to fix everything. Sometimes you even need to like re-engineer the entire thing just because it was not built the correct way, just like to get better, to be more efficient, to be using less energy, to be using less power, to be using less film. So at the end of the day, you can do more with your existing hardware. This is key for everything. This is the most important thing in tech, and that's one of the hardest problems to solve because most of the time it's a black box. You have no clue why it doesn't work.
And as the we talked about this again in the first segment, as the models become more diverse, as the models become more fragmented, right? As more and more people develop more models, there's going to be a right model for this thing or the best model for this thing and not the best model for this thing, right? And the best model for another thing. But what's also happening too is that as we move away from just traditional GPUs and the NVIDIA model, right? We have companies like Cerebras and other companies that have been well-funded developing different chip architecture to be able to handle what's happening in the AI space, particularly on the inference side. What do you need? Well, you need what Callosum is building. And remember, we said just moments ago, if you can't explain what something's doing, it means you don't understand it. So again, just to back up a little bit and tell people, just to make this super clear, Callosum's building software that helps AI systems use the right model on the right chip for any particular task. But if you think about it, Martin, we do that in the human brain. And this is one of the reasons why I love these conversations, right? Because the human brain does this all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you cook at all?
No. I hate cooking.
Okay.
I really hate. I think I've made pasta twice in my life, and that's it, my job.
Okay. But again, let's use an example that everybody can understand, right?
Yeah.
You own a car, you own a motorcycle, you own a bicycle, and let's say you own like a scooter.
Yes.
Or you just have legs.
That's my situation, yeah.
Right? Or you just have legs, let's just say.
Yes.
Okay, so if I'm guessing, I know you have a car, but if I guess what kind of car you have, it's probably like, I don't know, like a 911 Turbo, right? Because you like to go fast. Nice car, by the way. But my point is that like sometimes the 911 Turbo that you have is the wrong vehicle to get somewhere.
Yes.
So this is the same idea. It's like, maybe it's just better to walk around the corner. Right? And your brain is doing this constantly for every task that you're performing. It's like, what's the right way to think about this thing? And then what's the right mode to get this done? And that's what they're doing, but they're doing it at scale for AI. And that's, to me, why this is so interesting, because while everybody else is out there building a particular component for this, they're going, that's great, but how do I decide when to use it? You understand?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, I know you do, but I want the audience to listen and just think, okay, that's why Callosum could potentially be so valuable, because up until now, and it always, again, takes the development. You need to have like a bunch of different fragmented things and fragmented potential options for someone to actually go out and build this business, because you need to understand like when and how and why you need to connect to different things to do different tasks, and which one is best and worst for each one of these use cases.
I think what's interesting to me also in this deal is that they don't build models themselves, and they don't build chip themselves neither.
No, and they don't care either.
So they are sitting in this middle solution where they pretty much need everybody to also say, okay, let's try to use your product, and then let's see like how it can help us. And also they probably need some type of access, or they probably need some type of information to be able to build their own product. So I don't know like how this relationship works, because they depend on everybody, they need things from them, and they don't compete with them. So I really wonder like how this is going to evolve. Are we going to have closed doors in 6 months or in 12 months if they go too much? Like for example with Cerebras, like they announced Cerebras being one of their partner. What NVIDIA is doing to do, and then does that mean, for example, if NVIDIA say, yeah, no, you don't work with us, we don't help you, then does it mean like all the models that run on NVIDIA, then they don't really want to use them? Like, I really wonder like how this relationship works. Is there like a threat of their business itself, like if they really depend on those guys, or are they building something that we don't know, and then they can come on the show, tell us more about it? Would be super interesting to understand how this relationship works.
But you know the way I feel about this, right, Martin, is that over time, the model businesses are going to have less and less leverage, which is probably one of the reasons why we've seen news recently of OpenAI trying to accelerate their IPO into September.
Before Anthropic.
Well, yeah, because there was a whole story that I don't think we're going to cover today on the fact that Anthropic's revenue is now outpacing OpenAI's revenue. And we talked a couple of days ago, and this is kind of off topic, so I don't want to spend a lot of time here because we've got a couple more things to cover before we get to our guest today. But you know, you and I did a whole segment on the fact that Anthropic's revenue surged in the second quarter.
Yes.
Well, OpenAI's didn't. Anyway, but I do believe they're going to use leverage. They're going to lose leverage, but also all of this FDE work that they're doing may not mean that much, because if there's an orchestration layer, and this is what Callosum is building essentially, right? It's like in the same way that there's payment orchestration, where you don't decide like, I'm going to use this payment system for that, or that payment system in France, and this one in Germany, and this one in Spain. You just like have an orchestration layer above it. Primer does this. Other companies do it as well, where they're just like, you just tell me what you want to pay, and I'll go out and figure out what the most efficient way is to pay from a tax perspective, let's say, but also from a country by country perspective, because we know more about the payment infrastructure than you need to know. Just tell us what you want to pay and to whom you want to pay it, and we'll figure out what the most effective way is to do that. And that's what Callosum is doing in the AI space. You may never know which model you're using. I mean, it may tell you, but you may not have a choice, or you may not want to choose, because you may actually use the artificial intelligence that they're building into their system to then determine which model you're going to use for whatever specific task you're doing. And if they break it down into small enough pieces, it may actually be less expensive, actually monetarily as well, because they may be able to find the cheapest way to do it that's still the most effective way to do it. Yeah.
Super good, super interesting. Let's follow their story, let's follow their growth, and yep, if they want to come on the show, happy to have them. That'd be super
Yes. So I know you guys are listening, Callosum founders. Call me, email me.
They have been sharing our post all of today about like their announcement. So yes, they have been following AGTP.
If you are on the PR marketing team at Callosum, Martin at undercovermedia.io.
Exactly. Send me an email.
We're waiting for your email. Send Martin an email. Come on the show next week and talk to us about why your company is so important.
Exactly. Super good.
Okay. Do you want to talk about Microsoft?
Yes, let's talk about Meta and Microsoft.
So Meta has told us that they're going to spend a ton of money on CapEx, but let's back up a little bit. Because while that's going on, they have quietly become one of Microsoft's largest AI customers. According to some reporting by Bloomberg and some other companies, Meta is spending several $100 million a year to access AI models through Microsoft Azure.
Okay.
And the reason why this is so important, Martin, is because they're also in the process of building some of the largest internal AI infrastructure in the world. Right? Apparently they're spending, let's see this, Meta spent $31 billion on CapEx in Q2 2026 alone. Do you know, and this is like separate, but do you know, I was reading an article yesterday or the day before, they've lost over $100 billion on their metaverse thing.
100 million loss, like
$100 billion.
net loss. Sorry, 100 billion net loss. So everything they spent, then we like plus their revenue, we are still down 100 billion. Wow.
And the article that I read had a picture of like their most updated, so they stopped actually developing this stuff, but you know how they had those like little guys with no legs that looked like Play School toys? You don't even know what Play School is because you didn't have these toys when you were a kid. But it's like a half a person that looks like a bubble and a head on top of it with like Mark Zuckerberg's face. Of course, this was always going to fail. Anyway, let's get back to this. So it now expects full year CapEx in 2026, and this is not a new number, of somewhere between 130 and 145 billion dollars. Okay, free cash flow at Meta fell to just 784 million bucks, partly because so much cash is being directed towards infrastructure. That's amazing. And think about it, because you and I have talked about this, right? So they can't use their existing data centers to get this capacity. So while they're out there going, we're going to spend all this money and we're going to have all this infrastructure for AI, they're basically going, hey, Satya?
We need
it's Mark. we need some infrastructure from you guys. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it really looks. I mean, to me, it feels like Meta has been really pushing super hard into like basically coming into the AI race fast because they were super late. And as Mark Zuckerberg famously said 6 months ago, like if we misspend a couple of hundreds of billions of dollars along the way, it's okay. So I think that fits into that, right? Like they are just spending like crazy, right? Because they were super late to the party. They need to go and do something fast, and so they just buy everything they can. They just try to exist. They launch the super intelligence labs. They have their model now. They want to compute. So yeah, they are just moving fast basically and just spending money to move fast. So interesting, very interesting.
It is interesting. And again, the people that are building the infrastructure, I think at least for the next couple of years, are going to be the ones that win. Azure revenue I remember Microsoft was late to the data center game, to
Yes,
the
that's
cloud
AWS.
game, right?
Yes.
They were late. I mean, late meaning like AWS sort of invented this. Google always had like a little bit of a business like
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Alibaba's out there. Azure, it doesn't even sound like a cloud business. Who knows why they've called it that, but still their revenue passed $100 billion annually in Microsoft
Oh, wow.
2026 fiscal year.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they are actually super large, actually.
It's
What is
gigantic.
what is AWS? So then they are number 2 then, because I think Google is at 60 or 70, I think, true cloud, if I'm not wrong. And only AWS is below than them then.
Let's just
Like,
see.
I mean, we don't know the numbers for the Chinese, huh? Like the Huawei cloud and the Alibaba cloud, domestic in China, it could be absolutely massive. Huh?
Annualized revenue for AWS as of Q2 2026 was $169 billion.
Okay.
Azure revenue, just by the way, grew 43% in the last quarter.
Wow. Perfect. Infrastructure, Michael. Infrastructure. Cloud.
Plastics. I feel like it's the 1960s. Doing plastics.
I think cloud businesses are just going to win so much. It's going to win so much.
Yeah, but here's what's also really interesting to me about this, Martin. We have a little bit more time to cover this topic, and then we can move on to the next one, right? But like, one of the reasons why, so Facebook wants to become this fully integrated AI company in the same way that, and everyone's building from a different vantage point, right? So NVIDIA's building from the chip vantage point. Meta wants to build their own chips, which they're not doing yet, but they need to have the infrastructure first to do that, right? To do all the compute, but then they want to sell that compute to other people. Right, so they're planning to sell some of their computing capacity that they build to other people.
Yep.
And also Meta is exploring, again, according to Bloomberg, building their own cloud business, which is weird, right? Because they were one of the originators. You probably, again, slightly too young to remember this. But when the Facebook business itself started to grow like dramatically, they couldn't find somebody that could efficiently run and grow with them as fast as they did. So they basically developed their own server architecture and their own software architecture to run on those servers to be able to run their own data centers so that they could scale faster than they could otherwise.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
that's
to
why
me,
they
it's
build their data centers all around the world, basically.
But what's shocking to me is that they never saw, because AWS did the same thing. I mean, one of the reasons why Amazon built their own data centers was because the rest of the industry couldn't keep up with them. But the smart people inside of AWS went like this. We're probably not the only people with this problem. And companies big and small are going to need a place to run stuff in the cloud. And also just to they're going to need data center access. If we're building it for us, and this again is before it became a political thing, let's just build as much data center capacity as we possibly can. And I read somewhere again, Martin, I don't know the number off the top of my head. Let me just see this. How much?
But yeah, it's true. I mean, it's true that AWS was visionary by launching their cloud offering, and Meta could have done the same thing. Like they were building their data centers at the same time, like back in 2010, right? Like that. I mean, between 2005 and 2010, like these two companies were growing like crazy, and Meta could have done the same thing. I agree. Yep.
Well, they could have, and they should have, because they should have seen the same problem. And again, I want to get the number right. Amazon Web Services has a massive record-breaking backlog that serves as a direct proxy for its latent demand, with RPO, which stands for Remaining Performance Obligations, of almost $500 billion, $496 billion. Okay, that means that Amazon has nearly $500 billion in signed customer commitments, stuff that customers want to pay for, that it has not built yet, that it's not billed yet, and that it's not recognized as revenue. And demand is heavily outstripping supply, right? So AWS CEO Mark Garman and Amazon CEO Andy Jassy have explicitly stated that the company is highly capacity constrained. So for any of you wise guys or wise gals out there that say AI is a bubble, sit down, hold my beer.
I love the word obligation. We have $500 billion of clients' money, and it's an obligation to serve them. I love that.
But
I just love this concept.
Their capacity is pre-sold through 2028, Martin.
Yeah, and plus, like this is not the only one that I remember. I think like who was it? Like TSMC who had like orders.
Same thing. NVIDIA had the same thing. No, TSMC as well. Yeah.
was like massive, like 5, 6, 7 years ahead. They are already full, right? Like it's
Yep.
just absolutely insane. So yeah, no, like the infrastructure side, like I mean, they are risk, right? Like they are people trying to do something else, right? Like Apple, for example, trying to do on device. People are also, like, I mean, enterprises especially, they have an advantage of installing LLM on-prem and then fine-tuning them, putting the data, like all the question of sovereignty and all of these things
Yep.
that we have talked about already. But I do not think, even with this threat to the cloud offering or to this competition to the cloud offering, it means that cloud offering is going to either disappear or even slow down. I think it's just going to accelerate. It's just going to be different ways to use AI, like,
Mm.
but I think it's going to be very complementary, because on-prem and on-device is always going to be much more expensive, and for the consumer. So you will do some stuff on-prem, some stuff in the cloud, and we're just gonna end up in a world where the two are going to work so well together that they are just going to grow and coexist,
So
and it's going to be really great.
can I make a point that no one's
Mhm.
talking about?
To go ahead.
No, because this is my hot take for today. Is that you can say that there's a chip bubble, you can say that there's an AI bubble, you can say that there's a cloud bubble, and you can say that there's a data center bubble because every company and their brother wants to access capacity in the cloud.
Yeah.
And then you can make the case that, like, okay, well, we'll not do it in the cloud, we'll do it on-prem so we can more protect our data. But you're presuming that your prem or your premises already has enough capacity to be able to handle that. In other words, companies that are building servers and that are building chips can either sell it to the hyperscaling cloud providers
Mhm.
or sell it directly to the companies that are going to have to build their own data centers to handle their own capacity.
Yes, which
So
is
whether you're dealing with Azure or AWS or Alibaba Cloud, if Goldman Sachs wants to have more capacity, but they don't want to give it to one of the hyperscalers, they're going to have to build it themselves. We had data centers at Goldman when I was there.
Mhm.
So it's six of one, half dozen of another, right? Someone's going to buy those chips, whether it's AWS or Goldman Sachs themselves.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Do you know what I mean? That's not going to change NVIDIA's economics. It may change their
Zero.
customers.
Mhm, mhm.
But my point is that, like, we can say, I'm not talking about you particularly, but we can say, like, oh, we'll just do that on-prem. Okay, but do you have enough stuff on-prem to do it?
Mhm. And
Not
Azure,
yet, because if
you can
AWS
get.
has a $500 billion of outstanding remaining
Mhm.
performance obligations, let's say some of that's coming from Goldman. I'm just saying, right? I don't know if it is, but if it is, and they don't give it to Amazon, let's say they cancel their order with Amazon, they're going to have to build it themselves. So the infrastructure component providers are still going to excel.
Yes, for
Do
sure.
you understand how that's a different
No.
conversation than most
Yeah,
people are having?
but yeah, but completely. I think that's another angle to this question, which once again just confirm my big feeling that the infrastructure are going
Correct.
to be the massive winner in 5 to 10 years.
Correct. But this is the thing that nobody
Yeah.
else is talking about. And
Mhm,
this is
mhm.
why you and I have these conversations, because
Yeah.
everyone's talking about, like, just this one thing. Oh,
Mhm, mhm.
Facebook doesn't have enough capacity, so they're going to Azure.
No, 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 no. It's just
But they're
like
also trying to build internally. But
yeah.
that also means that anybody now who wants to put stuff in the cloud
Mhm,
with AWS has to wait 3 years.
mhm, mhm.
Why not build it yourself? Either way,
But
NVIDIA's gonna have to sell more chips, Cerebrus gonna have to sell more chips, Dell's gonna have to sell more. You know what I mean? Like, all this
But
stuff is still gonna have to get sold and purchased.
you know what's really funny, Michael? You know
What's
what's
that?
really, really funny into all of that? And like now I'm just remembering like some of my own history, let's say. But like in the last 5 years, so before AI become huge and we need so much GPUs to run AI, okay? Before that, like basically like we have so much problem with these data centers because they don't have the GPUs, they don't have the graphic cards, they have a lot of RAM, they have a lot of CPUs, they have a lot of storage. Like there is no problem here. Like that's something that we've been doing forever. Like just host your website, put your database in the cloud, no problem at all. The problem is because AI now needs GPUs as well, and they don't have it. And the I remember like when we started to look at Unreal Engine, my girl. You know, like when we looked at
Yep.
creating this 3D environment and all of that, I was like, you know what? Instead of buying a big PC with like all the components that we have, maybe let's just rent it from Google Cloud, basically. Let's go
yeah.
to AWS. But no one, so that was like 3 or 4 years ago, none of them had a GPU. There was no GPU
No,
offering.
because no one had
Okay.
thought about it. Yeah.
And so there were nobody who had the capacity basically to host this type of offering. So they didn't have a graphic card, they had nothing, so we had to buy it ourselves. Okay.
Yeah.
Then
It's
Michael,
still
like,
sitting in your apartment, right?
yes, it's still, of course, we run everything on there. On it right now. Then let me get the date right, because I think this is going to be really, really interesting as
Go
well.
ahead.
Like I want to get the date right. In 2018, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
2015.
Mm.
A company in France called Shadow launched what's called cloud gaming. So cloud gaming is what? It's like that's to me that's one of the best idea in the world. It's so sad that it fails, that doesn't work. But the idea is that instead of buying a $3,000, $4,000 PC to run the latest game, same, you just rent one from the cloud at $30 per month, and it just works, right? And so that was in 2015, right? Like, so they already started to have like these use cases, like this offering, this product to put GPUs into the data centers, but it has never been big enough, right? Like, they have never had this massive demand, or all the users of all the demands, to actually put a lot of them. That would have been really, really useful right now for AI. And so now we have problems for AI because it's been 10 years that everything we've tried didn't
Didn't
take it.
work.
Like,
Yeah.
it didn't take big enough. And if it had, we would have been much more ready. And so that's why I think that all the Unreal Engine example, all the cloud gaming, and Nvidia, I think today is the biggest player in cloud gaming. I don't remember what's the name of their offering. GeForce, Nvidia GeForce. Michael, when you think
Yeah.
about it, it's insane. Like, I've tried one day with the data centers in Singapore.
Right.
So it's like 1,000 kilometers away, 1,000 kilometers from where we live. When you push the button, your character moves instantly. So which means, like, you push your button, the information goes to the data centers, does the action, comes back, then and display that on your TV, and that's instant. Like,
Yeah.
it's absolutely insane when you think about it. And so this, because it didn't grow before AI, that's why we have all of these problems. But if all of these things had been like much more developed, and it has been much more normal 15 years ago,
Right.
I think we would have much less problem with AI right now.
So I don't disagree with you. And if you think
Yeah.
about it, these MMOs, right? These massively
Yes.
multiplayer online games have been doing distributed computing over GPUs
Exactly.
for more than a decade, as you
Yeah,
suggest.
The oldest one and the biggest one as well would be World of Warcraft.
Yep.
And
Yep.
World of Warcraft launch
But even
date, I mean,
Minecraft is a distributed game. I mean, all these games are
yeah.
distributed now, no?
Yes. So Minecraft, I think, is much smaller, and so like there is a part that runs on your PC. But like, for example, World of Warcraft, it's fully in the cloud,
Right.
launched in 2004, my God. So like 22 years now. It's
Right.
been 22 years. They have millions of users. Microsoft acquired Blizzard for billions of dollars. So it's not like it's a small thing.
40-something billion dollars. Yeah.
Something like that, right? Like, Blizzard being the company that makes World of Warcraft. So no, it's huge. And so that's why, like, they know very well how to do that. Gaming has been the first doing this. Also, crypto came after, right? Like, you remember that one of our first guests on AGTP told us that they were mining crypto for like 10 years, and then they changed to hosting AI. You remember? Like,
Yeah.
like, they had the data centers, they had the GPUs, they had all the infrastructure for crypto, and now they had like, okay, we have everything. Now we can do something that makes more money, basically doing AI. And so that's this type of use case that I think always super interesting, and that was just not big enough for AI. AI is like way bigger than that.
Unbelievable, Martin. I was wrong on the acquisition price for Microsoft's acquisition of Blizzard.
Okay, yeah, 69 billion.
I knew it had a 6 in it.
So I just there is 75 billion including cash. So stock plus cash, in total was 75 billion. Massive.
I was just going to say, though, it's like an unbelievable amount of money.
Yeah, for a company that makes game. Like, it's just crazy when you think about it.
Pretty incredible.
Yep. But so that's what I think, like, sports, gaming, like all of these things, like they participate into the R&D of stuff in general, right? Like, there's a lot of things that are built for that, and then just comes to the real world in a way.
It's pretty amazing. Do you think any of these game companies are going to switch some of their capacity over to AI, or are they not qualified to do that, you think?
Yeah, I don't
And I
know.
wonder how much of Microsoft's
Yeah,
acquisition of Blizzard can handle some AI stuff,
yeah.
since they seem to have enough capacity. Like, you never heard Microsoft complain about capacity, yeah?
No, never, never, never. But yeah, maybe now the servers of World of Warcraft are a little bit slow, you know? Maybe they have a little bit less GPUs than they should have. I have no idea. I don't play the game. If you guys play the game, please let us know. But yeah, like these really, really big games, like they need probably the same hardware than AI. So
I would think so. But I just thought it was interesting that you said that like some of the crypto guys had switched their
yeah,
capacity over. And if that was possible to do, you'd have to think that some of the people that are doing online games
yes,
must have
yes,
some capacity available for AI as well, since they're already
yes,
using the GPUs to facilitate this. Yeah.
yes, exactly, exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
So yep, super cool.
So I think we did a really good job of leaving ourselves with no time for the last topic, really.
So you want to do it very quick?
Hudson River Trading, Martin, is signing a multi-billion-dollar deal with Coreweave.
The joke.
That's all we have time for?
We have 4 more minutes.
So this month, well, actually today's August 20th, Coreweave announced a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar agreement with HRT, which is Hudson River Trading. And HRT, let me just for people that don't know, where am I? Give me a second. Hudson River Trading is actually just like a multi-system hedge fund.
Okay.
For people that don't know. So the fact that they're going out and they're signing a multi-billion-dollar agreement with Coreweave is actually a big deal. And here's the thing. They were already a customer of Coreweave's. Right?
Okay.
So it's like they're just figuring out that they need AI. They're just going, okay, we've been applying deep learning to trading for more than a decade. It almost sounds like Jane Street, right? It operates itself. It operates substantial GPU infrastructure and describes deep learning, which is not shocking for anybody who's been in the hedge fund industry, as core to its trading. But again, its problem, and I think it's interesting to talk about this because we were just talking about gaming, and then we were talking about AI companies, we were talking about crypto companies, but now we're talking about hedge funds. Its problem is the same problem that everybody else is having. It's just getting enough capacity to scale, right? Like the more data that these firms, that these hedge funds have, that these high frequency trading firms have, the more training capacity they need, and their researchers need to run more experiments without increasing the amount of time it takes to actually run those experiments. And here's the other thing. The structure of these deals actually ends up being pretty important too, because Hudson River Trading has historically kept much of its infrastructure, as we just were talking about, Martin, where? On-prem. So it's built its own distributed file system to handle hundreds of petabytes of research data. This is one of the big distinguishing factors of a successful hedge fund, is the sheer amount of data they can process and the speed with which they can process that data and to make trading decisions in real time. And this Coreweave agreement, therefore, looks more like an expansion of their research compute stuff that they've already built themselves internally into like a connected AI cloud. So I think it's going to be partially it's like a hybrid electric vehicle in a way. This is a hybrid AI infrastructure where some of it's on-prem and some of it's off-prem. And again, as we were discussing earlier, I think this line between on-prem and off-prem is blurring, because at some point you still need to pay for the compute.
Yes.
And who knows? Like, we don't even know why Hudson River is going to the cloud to do this.
Yeah.
Like, they literally could have run out of physical space. I'll put you this way, Martin. When I was at Morgan Stanley, when I was in the technology group, when I was a systems admin, I told you I managed the data center. It wasn't a data center; it was a computer room. It had a bunch of servers in there, some of which like went external. It had a backup system that we used on tapes, but like I managed that whole thing. And when we moved to a new building, we just built a larger room. Okay.
Michael, sorry to interrupt you. Door just arrived, so I will let you finish, and I will see everybody on Monday. Okay.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, everyone. See you on
Awesome.
Monday.
Okay, let's go through some of this stuff anyway, because I do think it's actually really important. Let's just run through this. So as I was saying, they were already a customer. HRT was already, so Hudson River Trading was already a customer of Coreweave. And Coreweave just basically looked around at their customer base and said, maybe we should expand this relationship here. And the announcement on August 20th, as I was just discussing, formalizes a much larger commitment and places Vera Rubin. So this is the newest compute platform from NVIDIA at the center of this new relationship. And that's actually become important. So there's a bigger sort of financial services story here as well around Coreweave. Jane Street, which is a company that I mentioned a few minutes ago, because they're one of the leading edge or bleeding edge sort of hedge funds out there. They've always been very data oriented. My guess is that Jane Street as well has had their own sort of on-prem data centers. And again, these companies, one of the reasons why they want to keep them on-prem is because they want to make sure that their data is protected in a way that, once it gets off your premises, the ability to protect that data at scale just gets harder and harder. And now you're relying on somebody else to do it for you. And that is, I wouldn't say it's less efficient, but it feels a little bit scary when your data is now like running on somebody else's servers. And I think that's going to be really, really important to watch as well. Martin, should we bring Door in? Let's do it, man. Door, how are you? It's very nice to meet you. What am I seeing outside your back window besides the sky? Where are you based? Can I guess? Let me guess. Is there a beach near you?
Correct.
You are in Tel Aviv.
No. Almost. Okay. I'm from Tel Aviv, but not right now, not in Tel Aviv.
Where are you?
Right now I'm in Cancun, Mexico. You couldn't guess it.
My next guess was going to be Miami, but Cancun was not going to be my guess. Okay, well, it's great to have you on the show, Door. Good for you going from Tel Aviv to Cancun. Pretty good trade. Well, look, we wanted to talk to you about how AI-enabled business infrastructure can change the way companies operate and scale across markets. You're like Muan. Am I pronouncing that right, the name of the company?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, Muan is the company.
Awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what Muan does, because I think it's actually really unique, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper because it's involved in a bunch of different industries, yeah?
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Muan is involved in different industries. Well, main domain it's a software, telecommunication, and marketing. So we have two main operations. One is contact centers that we operate from Latin America. One of them is in Cancun, serving the US market.
Yep.
And the other one is a software. It's an AI software that enable non-technical users run the marketing campaigns on a very high scale. So that's the really main big ventures. And then we invest in different startups, different companies, and involved in other as investors.
Got it. So what is the underlying thesis for, and can I ask you, does Muan mean something in some language?
Yeah, it's actually is. It's an owl in a Mayan language, very old Mexican tribes, right? The Mayans. It's an owl, yeah.
Got it. Okay, so what is the underlying thesis here that makes these businesses like one coherent company? What's the underlying thesis around it? Is there some sort of AI connectivity here? What is it?
Yeah, so I'm involved with AI way before it was a buzzword. Since 2017, I found myself playing hard with AI. No, it's a buzzword, not a bad word. It's a word everyone using. But 10 years ago, no one used it, right? So I've been involved with AI related to chat marketing. We did a lot of campaigns with a very high scale. I think several millions of dollars between 2017 to 2020. And we implement AI inside chat channels like Messenger, WhatsApp, the DM and Instagram. And we interact with users. And then we apply this to different niches, like around 15, 16 niches, different markets. So that's really where we start to really get involved with AI. And today it's part of our day-to-day operations. So we kind of democratize it. Everyone can use it in our tools. We have one tool in emerging markets, Latin America. and really non-technical users are playing very nice and doing very nice things with AI. And well, the AI doing the things to them right now, and in the day-to-day operations, we're also applying AI to our companies and to other customers. And so, we use it as a tool that's actually doing the job instead of just, helping you.
How has
actually doing the operation?
So you're right. Back in 2017, AI was not a buzzword at all. We may have been talking about big data, and frankly, we may have been talking about machine learning, but nobody was talking about this in the context of AI. And to be fair, between 2017 and 2023, before ChatGPT was unleashed on the world, and now with Anthropic and all these other sort of AI models out there, everything has changed. Maybe you can run us through a little bit how your perspective on the use of AI, whether it's internal to Muan itself or to the companies that you support or build, how they're using AI in a way that's different than it might have been previously before GPT was sort of unleashed.
Yes. So what I see now is that AI actually doing the work, right? Instead of just helping you do the work or co-work with you in the company, is many times now doing the whole cycle of the operation. I will give you a practical example, day to day. Earlier last year, 25, I was walking around the contact center, one of our contact center in Mexico. We have 150 reps in the contact center doing calls.
Yep.
And I came to visit, I walking around, and what I noticed is that after every call being made, the rep taking notes, right? He put notes on the call, summarize the outcome of the call. It's taking around 10, 15 minutes. You need to memorize everything, you need to put the notes, so whenever you ship the outcome, in this case is a meeting set, someone else that's gonna get and visit the customer can have a context. And I was wondered, like I say, okay, it's 150 people, they book around 200 meetings a day. Wow. Every time after they book a meeting, it's 10 minutes, give or take, of note-taking and CRM updates and match some data. We're talking about 2,000 minutes a day, operational minutes, and there we implement AI. Now, by today, same amount of people, getting almost 3x more the meetings because they're more productive. Now AI listen to the call live. Rep is finished the call, click one click, AI take the notes, update CRM, shipping the data to the next department with some notes, doing the whole work and saving thousands of minutes, working minutes a day. So it didn't replace the rep, but it's making way more productive. The company didn't need to hire another 200 reps, but the existing people did way more job that is productive for them, productive for the company, and got more outcome. So this is such a use case that we see that AI doing the whole cycle of operation, which a human did before.
But you make a really important point, and I think in the context of some of the stuff that we had been hearing, actually in the first quarter and the second quarter of 2026, that and I'm exaggerating a little bit, right? But just that everybody in the service industry is going to lose their job because AI, like voice AI or note-taking AI, is just going to replace people. But what you're suggesting is something that I've actually been saying for months, and that is that it's not going to replace the existing people. It's just going to make them way more productive. And I base this on my own experience when I was working at Goldman Sachs, that when we implemented automated whatever, I didn't get fired because of that. I was just way more productive and I could focus on giving my clients a better experience. Do you also think that your customers that are interacting with your contact center are getting a better experience because the agents that are there, while they're doing more work or affecting more work, they have more time to actually serve the customers in a way that makes the experience better?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, well, I believe AI will impact some jobs, but it will impact in a way that it will not take existing job from someone if he apply AI, right? But definitely, we're hiring now less because AI make people more productive. So in this sense, I think that we see a little bit of the impact. But definitely, I think that people that are, in this sort of risk that everyone talk about it, those are not applying the use of AI. And the person that use the AI will take the job to person who not use the AI.
Agreed.
And not the AI itself will take the job. Right?
Can we talk a little bit about the software that you're using as well?
Yeah.
You mentioned note-taking software. If Muan itself is involved in a bunch of different verticals, I presume you also have your own dev team, yeah?
Correct.
Say it again. You do. You must.
Yes,
right?
we do.
And to be fair, I don't care how many developers you have. Again, because tools like Codex and Claude 4.8, right, and Claude Code, I'm just using them as an example for and Cursor, like all these tools allow developers to also be more productive. Does that mean Muan now has the ability to basically become more efficient by writing its own note-taking software? Do you know what I mean? So you don't have to pay out to the existing software providers that do this, but you can write your own that's very specific for the use case that you have?
Yeah, well, we actually did wrote our own note-taking software. We didn't use external one. And I think it's a huge shift that happened in organizations that are software-centric. And I just read an article about Laravel. I guess you know Laravel, right?
Yep.
And they mentioned that one of the biggest use cases are a huge enterprise building their own software on top of Laravel, and then they're not renting out softwares that, as before you buy seats for your people, and then you need many softwares to handle each thing. So now you build your own softwares. And yeah, we in Muan, we're doing the same. Like we build our own softwares internally, and more than this, once we see it successfully in our operation, we start to sell it out as well. So yeah.
But do you think that there is going to come a time where companies, both large and small, right? So Muan has been in the software kind of related businesses forever, but there are plenty of companies out there where software is not their core competency, but they do maintain dev teams. Do you think we're going to get to a situation where companies will look at Muan and think, hey, wait a second, they're using automated tools to do agentic coding. Maybe we can do the same things ourselves. And again, you suggested earlier that the people that are going to win from an employment standpoint are those that are using AI to do their job, as opposed to people that are afraid of AI to help them do their job. Do you think we're going to get it to a position where like software becomes so commoditized that everybody's writing it for themselves in a way that's useful, not just in a way that is voluminous?
Yeah, I think, look, the potential is there. It might be, but we are working with a lot of non-technical organizations, right? They do have some sort of a development team, but what I see is that today companies, big organizations that are not software-centric, are a little bit underestimate what AI can do.
Fair enough.
Not because, because like the tech is ready, but sometimes the organization is not ready. So they cannot visualize how to change the whole SOPs and all the operational cycle to put the AI in the center. And I think that we still have a big gap there, right? So a lot of service companies, as you mentioned, they are a little bit underestimate what AI can do, and so they not apply it fully. But the tech is there, definitely. And it's down to, to a shift in mindset. So I would say tech is ready. Sometimes organizations aren't.
Yeah. So this is one of the other questions that I ask. Do you think one of the things that allows these firms to not be ready, or that forces them not to be ready, is the way they understand the way their data is organized, in the sense that when they built their data lakes or their data structures, they weren't so concerned about how it was going to be accessed in a way that was non-fragmented by artificial intelligence. And now that AI is out there, particularly from an agentic standpoint, being able to access all this data, that they have to then go back and rethink the way their data is organized internally.
Yeah, exactly. Not only the data, to also the operation itself. Like if you want AI to be effective, and you are not a software-centric, right? So you not have the mindset of all the time innovate for the next wave of technology. You will need a little bit even to change how the operation works.
For sure.
So, but I think you're right. You're in the point. I see many organizations, they're not even aware of how much data they have and what they can do with it, right? But yeah, I think in this sense, the gap is closing because there is more awareness. But if I take it behind the height, I think the practical use cases that non-technical organization using AI, we have a way to go. right? They are not even the tip of the iceberg in this sense.
Really? So what do you think has to change inside of these organizations, whether they're large, whether they're large institutions or smaller sort of SMEs or SMBs? What types of things do you think need to change besides the mindset itself so that they can actually be, I don't know what else to call it, but like AI ready in your experience, because you've obviously been working on this for a decade?
Yeah, I would say each organization today is need to have his own FDA department, right? Forward deployment engineers. Like and put a department. It not have to be big department. 2 or 3 people that they are in charge of understand first what data I have here and understand then where AI can be a centric part of my day-to-day applications. I would say another thing that I think is that organizations, big organizations, traditionals that are not software-centric might be underestimate the tech, but sometimes small businesses or independent, they might overestimate the tech. And then they have very high expectation. They believe they will write something to the chat and magic will happen. And if the magic not happening, so they are upset. Right? And they say, oh, it's not working. They told me in the Instagram and in YouTube that it's going to make magic and it's not do the magic. And there is an implementation curve here. I think implementation is the word that people need to take into account when they try to put AI part of the day-to-day of the organization.
Can we talk about the models themselves, if you don't mind? And I don't want to get specific about any particular model per se, but if you and I were having this conversation like 5 or 6 months ago, I believe that we would probably be talking about the GPT series of models or Anthropic's Claude series and maybe some of the Fable stuff. But I feel like today we did our first segment was entirely about a company called Ornith. Now they're building something that's basically for robotics. It teaches robots how to, no, that was a different company, but Ornith basically came out with a new model. And I feel like the model itself is becoming highly commoditized. And I'm wondering what you think about the commodification of these LLMs and how that changes the way people think about their own usage.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest companies and well-known companies, the AI, I would say, rockets from Israel, it's base 44, and they just launched a couple of months back their own model.
Yep.
And then I wanted to know like why they did it. Like they could work with Anthropic, with GPT. They did already. So why to invest in your own model? And then when you have such a database, such a data sets, so many use cases, it's start to be reasonable to build your own model. It might be even cheaper because you avoid a lot of markup that the big names will take from you.
Sure.
And you can control, there is like the model, and then there is the orchestra that you take a couple of models and build yourself your own engine. And then there is the harness when you build the body around the brain, right? And I think once you build your own harness, you start to figure out, maybe I back to step 1 and I need to build my own model, saving all this orchestra, harness, etc., because the model now understands the use case of my company.
Right.
So in this sense, I think it's down to data sets. And we will see more companies, mainly corporations, big software companies coming out with their own models. But we need to consider yet, and it's not my domain, but I believe it's something should be considered. How much it cost you to train the model? What is if you need to have your own data centers, chips, etc. Like what does it really means to have a model that can pace with the speed of Anthropic, GPT, Grok, Gemini, right? So I think it's another thing to take into consideration before organization or enterprise will jump in building their own model.
But here's another thing. And again, I'm only asking this because you're directly involved in building stuff, right? But I kind of get the sense that like we went through this series of developments, whether it's the GPT series or the Claude series or the Fable series or DeepSeek or any of the sort of Chinese open weight models, where the bigger the larger number of parameters, the better the model was considered to be. But now I feel like we're seeing this reverse, where we talked about a model company today that was building something that had 395 billion parameters, which is still a lot, but it's not in the trillions. Do you see in your own experience some of these models becoming, just as you said, very specific, not just on the data center side, but on the MOE side, this mixture of expert side where they're just focused on one thing so that they can be more efficient, they can be faster, they can be smaller and easier to run and easier to manage, as opposed to these sort of monolithic models that something like GPT 5.6 is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think that it's some organizations that have the capabilities start to explore it. Yep. I'm not sure about the outcome. I'm not sure they're sure about the outcome. We'll need to see. GPT, Anthropic, they are generating billions, but they are far from profitability. So it's really something the organization will need to consider because it's cost a lot of money to train the models. And I think there is another thing that lately rise up, in the conversation is that AI in the big models start to learn from AI. So it's a gap, it's a problem here because it generates so much content, it generates so much data sets in the internet, and then it's learned from itself, right? Even some like entities that have exclusive data, they limit the access for the models for such a data. And then myself wondering what will happen in a couple of years. So there is no enough data to learn from in this phase. And then maybe the unique data will have much more value. I will give you an example of one of my companies. It's not in the scale yet of Anthropic, obviously, or GPT, but we are right now running thousands of independent businesses in the Latin American market, which are way different than independent in the US or Europe or Asia. And we see how they use, we start to gain the data sets, we work with different models, but I'm thinking to myself, in a couple of years' times, we will have more data about those set of users in those countries than the big models. And we might consider to start to train our own model to help them better and to create So it's something that, come to my mind, but we need to understand the economic units of this, what does it mean to train your own model, what energy requirements, etc.
Yeah, because that was going to be the next question I was going to ask you, right? And again, it's not my level, it's not my expertise either to build my own model, but I saw Razorpay in India, which is just like a payments company, build and release their own model as well. And I think one of their thought processes was, hey, wait a second, as you were just suggesting, Dor, like we have all this proprietary data on payments that we don't want the rest of the world to have access to train their models. Let's keep all that information, and it's voluminous, and it's very what's the word I'm looking for? It has it's very valuable. Why don't we just build our own model that can then just help us do our thing? If you're considering doing that, and if all these new models keep coming out, it seems to me that like the model companies like Anthropic and like OpenAI are just going to lose their leverage. Is that something you believe is going to happen as well?
I can't say they will lose them leverage, but I definitely think that one of the things that such a company from India might consider is that they know better the customer, the behavior, how they chat, even the language communicated in the way of communication with the consumer, the end consumer, way better than Anthropic will know. Right? Even if they have all this tech, all this deep tech, all this research capability of the internet and the cloud, but when you work with direct consumer, you probably know them better. And so you have unique data sets, as you say, and then you can create a model that will serve better your consumer, right? It's specific in India. There are billions of people. They probably serve millions of consumers. So they will serve more Indian consumer than Anthropic, specifically on payments, right? So they will know better and they will, So in a sense, I think in emerging markets, definitely. Can't say about the US because GPT, Anthropic, they gathered and they build there in the US. I guess they gather the data globally. But it's if you may, it's a war on data. I think here specifically Google has the biggest edge, data-wise.
Yeah, for sure.
For all the inquiries in the communication. But it's a very interesting topic to deep in. But I'm telling you that we even still right now, like we dwell on the idea, what will happen in a couple of years? We have so many use cases, so many millions of interactions ourselves that happen under our softwares. Maybe we not need anymore to work with external model.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if I talk to you in 18 months from now, you're going to tell me that you guys have built your own model. As a matter of fact, I think you're going to tell me you've built more than one model. No, but the reason why is because, and I'll let you go after this, but just tell me if I'm wrong here. You said you're operating in 15 different verticals. Did I get that number right?
Yeah.
So imagine, and you'll probably expand that, but let's say you get to 20. It doesn't really matter to me. But at some point, you're going to realize we could build a lightweight, vertical specific model because we work directly with the clients that are using this. And we can actually take some of the revenue that the big model companies are having, because if we build a vertical specific model that's lightweight, we're not going to need the same amount of compute. We're not going to need the same amount of throughput, nor the same amount of infrastructure to run it. So we can actually be profitable because we're already profitable and we have more data than those big companies have. And because we're dealing with these people specifically, we should know more than they do. And you'll probably tell me, hey, Michael, the last time we talked, we said we were thinking about building one model. Now we're thinking about building 12. Does that sound crazy to you?
No, and I will take it a step forward. It's not even the vertical in my eyes. It's the industry, because we are doing those verticals in emerging market, which is Latin America.
Yep.
And if you think about consumer behavior of Latin American individual compared to US or compared to Europe, it's completely different. It's completely different. How they buy, how they ask, how they talk with the chats and think and operate as in our case as independent businesses. So I think one step before the vertical will be the industry, or the location wise, how people interact with such a software. And in Latin America, it's a very good example. I think India, Asia is a good example too, because you can see a full ecosystems built for the market. They not use the same in the same scale Amazon as US consumer. They have their own Mercado Libre to make the purchase. So and it's built for them. They not use the same DoorDash. They will use Rappi, right? So and it's already happening. So yeah, I think it's something that it's in even location wise, right? Not only industry.
Okay.
Vertical.
Dor, I've gone way over time with you. Thank you so much for doing this. Let me see if I can remember this. Toda. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you.
Enjoy Cancun.
Thank you for
and
having
have a safe trip back to Tel Aviv, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye for now. Okay, Martin, let's bring in Dr. Vishal Gauri. How are you doing? I am doing super duper. Where are you based right now? Palo, I've heard of it. Sorry, I'm just being a little sarcastic. It's great to have you on the show, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come and do this with us. We want to talk to you about how data-centric securities can allow businesses to scale AI while maintaining control over the most sensitive information. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what Seclore does first, and then we can dig a little bit deeper.
For sure. Seclore is what we call a data security intelligence company. And what that really means is that we are able to help enterprises secure sensitive information while understanding how and why they should be protecting it. And that really means understanding the content of what information they're protecting, understanding the context of how it and why it should be protected, and then actually protecting that information as well. So we have a suite of products that actually does a lot of that.
What is some of the complexities around, and again, I'm only thinking about this because I've been having so many conversations now about on-prem versus off-prem. How complex does this get when your data is split between some stuff in what I'll call off-prem on the cloud, but even stuff that's on-prem in some ways is still in a cloud. It's just a cloud that you maintain. But if your data is across these different clouds, like how complex does it get to do data management, and how does the data governance change in those situations?
It does become complex, you're right. I think that there are a lot of different tools that allow you to do governance in the cloud that don't really work for on-prem surfaces. The age of the data varies very differently as well. The ability to actually scan that information, understand what's in it, requires different levels of connectivity in different tools.
Fair enough.
So it does make it complex, but I think that the way I think companies solve this, including us, is really to build special connectors that connect to different kinds of surfaces and are able to then extract the right information, understand that information, and then act on it.
Right. But the security thing is made even more complex by the increasing number of surfaces. Like, how does agentic AI impact just the ability to manage the complexity around just the sheer number of surfaces that can created and they can get created and that then interact with the data again, whether it's on or off prem?
It's a great question, and I think that in my mind, I think the older way of thinking about surfaces has to change. Historically, we've always thought about surfaces having their own entity, and you create, perimeters and firewalls
Yep.
around. And I think over time we move to sort of cloud security, identity security. But I think the common theme that all these indirect methods protect is the data itself. And I think if you start thinking through the point of view of being data centric, which means rather than protecting the perimeters, you protect the data, then eventually it doesn't matter where the data lies, whether it's on-prem, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's in transit, whether it's in a SaaS application. If you're able to protect the actual data element, then I think a lot of that problem, and that's the only real way to solve it, especially with the agentic AI in the enterprise today.
But what's the difference between protecting the data, again, not eliminating the perimeter, but not putting as much focus on protecting the perimeter? Because you're right, like once you have agentic AI, actually even identifying the perimeters gets to be pretty hard, no? Because you just have all these different entry points, right? But let's put that to the side for a second. If something can get into your system, if it can violate the perimeter, how do you stop it from violating the data? Like, what do you do to the places where your data lakes or your data centers and stuff like that? How do you protect them in a way that the perimeter can't get protected?
Again, I think great question. I think the only way to do it is to embed controls in the data itself, right? You have to the data element, whether it's a file, whether it's a database element, whether it's anything that you might be exporting from a system, from a SaaS application, or uploading, etc., has to have some sort of control around the data element itself, so that if your perimeter does get breached, if the data gets shared outside the perimeter, for legitimate reasons, or if agentic AI actually is consuming data at a pace that you've never seen before, you have to be able to embed the control in the data. That's the right answer.
So again, you bring up a really good point. You said if it's consuming data at a pace that's faster than it was before, can I properly suggest, again, humbly suggest, maybe it's the better way to say this because you're way smarter than I am, but can I humbly suggest that we're also creating data way faster than we were before? And in your experience, do you find, and I ask a lot of people this question, but I'm curious to get like sort of a very broad view on this. Are the companies with whom you're dealing from the beginning, when you say you need to protect the data, the protections need to be embedded into the data, is there data even because when they built their data lakes or their data management systems, they weren't thinking about this current situation and this current environment and the current infrastructure. What has to happen to the data initially just to get it ready to be able to deal with the stuff that you're suggesting they need to do?
Yeah, I think you have to understand what's inside the data. The biggest problem is, I think maybe 60% of data that we see in the enterprise is dark data. Nobody knows what's inside them. Nobody's touched that data. It's sitting in repositories, it's sitting in systems, and there's no knowledge of what's in it. So the first thing you have to do is to understand what you have, and that is the problem that is solved typically by products like data security posture management or discovery products that are trying to really get into the information itself, understand how do you actually protect it by understanding what's in it, what was the intent of creating the data. And I think that's the first step. So you have to get yourself ready, and to do that you have to know what you have, and only then can you actually embed security in the data.
Do you think in some cases that large institutions or even small institutions are implementing artificial intelligence in a way that's backwards, in the sense that they're not addressing the data issues first and the data protection issues first, but trying, because of pressure from either their peers or their boards or their C-suites, to just do something in AI? I put that in kind of air quotes. And that once they realize, oh no, we haven't protected our data first, that then they go back and that's actually even harder to do than if they'd done that initially.
Agreed. I think it's a bit of a rush, right? It is.
Yeah.
Everybody is in the the mindset of accelerating AI usage. Like you said, it's a board mandate, it's a CEO mandate, it's a market mandate. You have to go ahead and use AI, bring efficiency into the company. And I think it's hard to really think through all the avenues of how data will be used by AI, where it's going, whether it's going to a public LLM system, whether agents are actually sharing it within or outside the enterprise. And I think that it's a lot of hard work that needs to be done to be able to secure the data before AI is actually deployed. But people are risking a lot by either shadow AI that people use their own systems, or implementing AI in the enterprise without putting in all the controls they need.
So shadow AI is a really interesting term. I love this. I mean, I tried so hard when I was at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs to do shadow IT on my own. And to be fair, I was relatively successful at it. It helped me out a lot at work. But shadow AI is a different story. Do you think we're going to get to a point, and I've just started to think about this as well, where companies are going to start to build their own models, and that the necessity to send data out externally to a different model provider is going to be disintermediated because of the data risks that we're talking about, and that part of the solution to this can say, we don't need internally a model that has 7 trillion parameters.
Right.
We just need one that has, let's say, 300 billion. That's very specific to the industry in which we're operating and the clients that we serve. Do you see that progression happening as well?
It's already happening, Michael, and I see that quite often. For ourselves, when we use AI in our products, which is in the DSPM product that gets content and context of information, we do not send any data to public models, because we know that we can do the tasks we need with much smaller models, right? And the same thing that we're seeing in a lot of enterprises, where they're realizing that not every task needs deep inferencing and deep understanding and a massive model. And a lot of the work that you can do, whether it's classification, whether it's understanding, whether it's updating some documentation, whether it's whatever task they might have, can better serve the smaller model that you can either host within your network, or you can have very local models that are actually stored on the endpoints themselves.
So again, this is not a show about investing, so I don't want you to think about it in that context. But if you're already seeing companies do what we just suggested, right? Building their own sort of, whether it's industry specific or company specific models.
Yes.
What do you think the implication is on some of the larger companies that are very model heavy specific, like OpenAI and Anthropic, in the context of the commodification? Is that, their models are being commodified, right? Like commoditized, excuse me. What do you think the implication of that is? Because you're already doing, like you said, you're not sending your own data out to these public models, because again, for data security and data protection, as big companies start to figure this out and follow your lead, what do you think the impact is on companies, like on the whole FDE infrastructure and all the infrastructure that they've built around this, all the data structure and infrastructure they've built as well on these larger companies? If we're getting to the point where, as we said, smaller models are going to become lighter, easier to use, and more efficient, what happens to the bigger companies out there then that frankly haven't found other uses for their models besides like agentic coding?
Right. Great question, Mike. I wish I had a perfect answer for you, but I'll attempt to tell you what I think.
Yeah, I'm just curious about like one uninformed guy is talking to a smart guy, and I'm just curious what you're thinking about it.
Appreciate the kind words, but I think we're all trying to peer into the future. But I think that I think two things are happening already. One is the larger model makers, the large LLM companies, have already realized that privacy matters.
Yeah.
And I think I read an article, I think yesterday or today, on OpenAI's new initiative to go after, making sure that data is private that they're using from enterprises. So protecting data at source within their customers' environments in the enterprise. I think that's one of the directions people will have to go. The large model makers will have to assure much better data residency and sovereignty. It's not just that they're not using data for training. Majority of our customers do not want to send their data outside their national boundaries, because there is data sovereignty requirements that matter, right? So those are things that they'll have to look at. The other thing that's happening also is, I think the large enterprise companies are expanding beyond their LLM use cases, right? They're building vertical solutions that are solving business problems, expansion around their core use cases in the enterprise, and also obviously getting better and better at security themselves is trends they will have to do, and they're doing that already. So
what is your view on and we don't know when it's coming per se, but again, I'm sure you're following this on the potential for quantum computing to change the way the artificial intelligence get used, the data gets protected, and the specter of harvest now and decrypt later, where you can have agents come in a way that's very stealth, right? Not do anything, not try to like, take your money right away because they can't decrypt your data. But once quantum comes around, take that data, decrypt it, and then go, we got all your stuff. Do you know what I mean? What does the specter of that look like to you
I
from
mean,
a data security
it's a real
standpoint?
risk. It's a real risk, and I think we see it with our customers, especially in the defense departments that we work with, the governments we work with. The very sensitive information that they protect with us, we see that's a huge issue for them already. They're concerned about harvest now, decrypt later. They're talking about post-quantum cryptography and how fast they can adopt a lot of PQC in our products. In ourselves, one of the things that we're working on also is to make sure that our products are safe from harvest now, decrypt later.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if somebody were to harvest the data, the kind of cryptography algorithms we use will make sure that even after quantum, to the best of our knowledge, even after quantum computing becomes available, and the estimates are 29 or 2030, that information will not be able to be decrypted by quantum computers. But that's a real risk, and you have to really work hard to make sure you can continue to upgrade the cryptography in all the encryption that you do to make sure that you're protecting yourselves, and that's a big job. It'll take a few years for all of us to get there.
Do you have a view on the open weight models that are coming out of China and the ability for people to start using those? I know that they're very compute heavy. They're also very connectivity heavy. And a lot of companies aren't set up to be able to sort of fine tune on their own. But do you see that becoming a trend as well? And how does that impact the data security stuff that we've been talking about?
It absolutely will become a trend, Michael. I think, again, like we said, we're seeing that more and more. If you look at the latest benchmarks on coding, even right, the latest Chinese models are as good as the frontier models that are available, from the large model makers, right?
For sure.
I think the trend will continue. They're much cheaper. They're going to be equally efficient or as efficient with smaller number of parameters. There's no way that anybody will prevent them from being used. The question is, how do you secure the information? I think the ability to be able to fine tune them will become more common. I think that will be a path that I think a lot of companies and perhaps a lot of services companies will focus on, and also they will self-host. The ability to control data within your perimeter, within your cloud, will be the trend of the future, in my opinion.
So one of the things that Apple has been talking about recently is on device, right? So Apple has built like their own sort of secure element here. They want to do a lot of stuff on device so that there's data protections there as well. But again, how does having that functionality live on a device, whether it's an iPhone or some other kind of portable device, change the way you think about data security or the way companies should think about data security? Because now that data lives everywhere potentially.
Right. So having an AI model work on your device or inferencing happen at the endpoint, right? I think that solves some of the problems of not having to send data to larger models in certain use cases. Not every use case, right? In certain use cases that can even in coding use cases it can help. But I think the reality is that data, you're right, data doesn't live on the endpoint. Data gets shared. You share it with your colleagues, you share it with your vendors, your customers, collaborators outside and inside the perimeter of the enterprise. So I think the importance of protecting data itself will continue to be there. I don't think that solves that problem.
No, I don't think so either. That's why I asked about it.
Yeah.
Do you see the world of artificial intelligence necessarily bifurcating, particularly with these agreements with like Paxilica and China's own World Artificial Intelligence Cooperation Organization, kind of splitting the world into two, or trying to potentially split the world into two when it comes to AI governance? And I presume that would lead to sort of data governance as well. Are you concerned about that as well?
I mean, it hasn't yet touched us, Michael. I mean, not in the data governance part of it. I think we're waiting and watching to see what developments might happen. Already there are two camps, in both of those things. Within our data security world as well, there are both camps, right, that look at things differently. But it's too early to tell in my mind.
Yeah. Again, I was just something I was reading about today, so I thought I'd give it to you to find out. Can we talk about one more thing, like how intelligent DSPM is evolving?
Yeah.
In a way that I may not understand yet, but that you're directly involved with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think so. You see, I think the DSPM stands for Data Security Posture Management,
Yep.
and I think what has happened in the past is that the people who are DSPM companies are providing visibility into risk and implementing posture management, which really means protecting who has access to what information and protecting rights on certain data assets. But the way it's evolving is that customers are realizing that visibility is not enough, right? Visibility is just a start. Eventually, you have to protect the data at the source. And that's what I think the SPMs are evolving towards. So one is improvement in intelligence, which means getting very focused on the customer's business. A DSPM or a data discovery product needs to understand the customer's business, whether it's a banking or a manufacturing or a semiconductor customer, to understand the regulatory environment around the enterprise, the geographical compliance requirements that might be there, and those intelligence levels are coming into discovery. And the second thing is you have to close the loop. You cannot just solve the problem by showing risk or showing what the challenges are. There might be 2 million files that are at risk in the enterprise, but how do you solve that problem? You have to close the loop, and you have to do it in an automatic and efficient manner, and that's where things are going.
Okay. Look, I feel like I've gone overtime with you. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. And thank you for being so generous with your opinions. I really appreciate it. It was great to meet you. Dr. Gauri, thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mike. Great to be here. Nice to meet you as well.
It was a complete pleasure, man. Have a super day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye for now. Okay, Martin, let's bring in our last guest of the day, Pranay Periwal. Hello, Pranay. I am doing super. You are in California? Super duper. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining the show, for taking the time out of your busy day to do this. We wanted to talk. Oh no, yeah. It's my complete pleasure. We want to talk to you about how curated social platforms are changing customer acquisition and loyalty. And I spent a lot of time today talking about experiences, so hopefully this fits into what you're going to talk about as well. Tell me a little bit more about Tova first, and then we'll jump into the details.
Okay, Tova is a private social club. You can think of it as an in-between of Soho House and Meetup.com. And so we curate the crowd, we curate the social calendar, and we do a bunch of different activities, experiences, events, and we've been doing it now for coming up to 2 years.
Okay.
We've hosted almost 400 events. We have operations in Hong Kong and Singapore, and we have more than, I think we're at 4,000. So yeah, I think it's the new way to go out there, touch grass, meet people. Yeah, that's Tova.
I like it. No, I like it. I like it. Did you say Soho House? I want to make sure I heard the right thing.
Yes, yeah, so, I mean, what I mean by that is that because Soho House is a private members club, we are a private social club, and the only difference is that we don't force a membership fee, but we do have an optional like a membership fee and that you can pay to be part of the club. But what I mean specifically is that they're vetted, and so is Tova. So like everybody goes through an application process.
How is the curation done? What are you looking for, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so we look for
you're
proxies.
Smiling because you're thinking we're not looking for someone like you, Michael. It's exactly what you're thinking.
No, that's not true. So we have a couple of filtration criteria. I mean, we don't take students, so we don't take anybody who is undergrad or lower. We try and keep the crowd to working professionals. We do Gen Z millennials, and we look for proxies of drive or ambition. And that could be school, it could be projects you're doing, could be the work that you do. The idea is to create a group of people who are pushing themselves, hustling, they have drive, so that when you come into a room and, when everybody says, oh, it's like a group of like-minded people, but what does that really mean, right? And so we try our best to curate the like-mindedness.
So I get this sense, look, I mean, I remember when Facebook launched, and I'm just using it as a proxy for kind of social media just because it's been out there for so long. I remember being afraid to sign up. So because of like data security and stuff like that. I don't want to talk about that, but I'm just saying, like, social media has essentially spent the last 2 decades optimizing for attention. Even Twitter are actually the same way.
100%.
But if you're optimizing for real world connection, what has to be designed differently, systematically or systemically, when the outcome you care about is not online, it's offline?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an amazing question, right? I think, and I think Brian Chesky put it best, where we're seeing basically a swing from social. So we started with social networking, we moved to social media, and now there's a big swing back to social networking. And all that means is that people are really sick and tired of the online ways of connecting. And you could think of it as just swings in the pendulum. We went one way, and now we've gone too far out, and now I call it reversion to the mean when it comes to your social life. Where we want to come back in person. And so I think the macro trends are towards connecting in person. And I think AI propels that even further. I mean, if you're only talking to an AI system all day long, we're still human. We're still social creatures. We need to connect with other humans. And so you will want to connect with people. And so we're seeing actually a massive surge in applications in both cities right now. And it makes sense. I think this community is popping up all around the world. People want to come back in person, whether be it for making friends or dating. Everything is moving towards in person now.
So that's a good segue actually to my next question is, like, what are you actually trying to solve in people's social lives? So if you're just trying to get like high ambition people, I presume it's men and women, or just like people that are attracted to other people, right? I don't want to make any sort of social choices for people, but the idea here is you're trying to create offline connectivity. But what is the real problem that you're trying to solve? Is it distance? Is it loneliness? Is it dating? Is it like, what's the thing we're trying to solve for?
So I think there's a couple of things there. I think we don't optimize for dating. We only optimize for a good social experience, and everything else ends up being a byproduct of that. So you don't really need to, make sure we try and make sure that the room is balanced. But beyond that, we don't do more than in terms of we don't control the crowd more than that. We have other layers where we connect, people who we think will get along better based on our algorithm. But the problem that we're trying to tackle is at least the archetype of people who come to Tova are the ones who are going through some change in their life. So whether be it they've moved to a new city, or they're coming out of a relationship, or they're coming out of their friendship circle and they're looking to, expand their circles, or they've changed jobs. So there's always some trigger point for them to want to go back and meet people. And then Tova becomes like the gateway for that. So I wouldn't say it's for lonely people. I wouldn't say it's for dating. It's really for people who have a change of phase of life and have a need for getting back out there and meeting people again.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible to meet somebody once you hit a specific age. It's almost like, how like you figure out like the music you like by the time you're 30, and then like the best band ever could like launch when you're 32 and you've never even heard of it, kind of thing. Yeah, is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
I mean, I guess, but I wouldn't say we're like as fussed about like the age. If you're Gen Z,
I don't mean the age. I just mean like there reaches a certain point in someone's life, and it can be age different for every person. But it's like at some point, you get tired of the slog of like meeting new people.
The same thing. Well, okay, I think it's more just that they get tired of the mundaneness of their routine, and they want something different out of their day to day.
Yeah. Do you see an opportunity for you to build your own physical spaces, or is it better for you to partner with people that already have physical spaces if you're trying to get people together in one location?
Yeah, I mean, we debate this idea often. Maybe at some point we will think about a physical space, because now we understand the art of curation, and so maybe there is a true merit in having a physical space. But for the time being, at least with our objective, it works well. I mean, a lot of our partners appreciate it. Our members appreciate trying to like new places. Like the main problems with physical space, not just from a business perspective, right? Obviously, like CapEx is a problem, but the other side of the issue is that like you can only cater to people who live within like close proximity to that location. And anybody who's further out finds it a little bit of a pain in the ass. People also like to try new things, like new restaurants and bars, and then so there's pros and cons, right?
But how do the logistics change when, I'm just curious, like how do the logistics change when you're switching locations, and like does the bar or the restaurant where you're having these meetups, I guess is the only thing you could call them, you know what I mean? How do they accommodate you? How do you know if the space is available? Is there part of the technology that you're using that also manages that part of it as well?
So there is definitely human components, right? Like we've done a lot of AI agents in our system to try and streamline as much as possible. But often enough, like we will need a video of the place, or we will have to go check it out physically to make sure the layout actually makes sense. And so like there is a lot of human. I mean, as much as you want to take away humans with AI and optimize, this is a human business, and human relationships really carry a lot of weight. So yeah, we do tend to go in person and check out a space, make sure it works, build a connection with the people.
So do I have this right? But you're mostly operating, like you're operating the business from San Francisco. You're in California, yeah?
Well, I'm only here temporarily.
Oh, okay.
I'll be back. So this is just
back means where? Where do you normally live? You live in Hong Kong. So you're operating in Hong Kong and in Singapore. Is there a reason why you've chosen those two places as a place to test this? Because I presume ideally you'd love to have this in every big city in the world, yeah?
For sure. So we well, it's slightly dumber than you'd imagine. I mean, I was in Hong Kong for university, and so I've been there for a while. And Hong Kong is one of those transient like cities in terms of like people coming in and out. So it makes a lot of sense. And then Singapore is another city like that, and it's also closer to in proximity to Hong Kong. Another aspect of this is that we wanted target cities initially where there's frequent travel, and so we know that Hong Kong, Singapore, there's a lot of back and forth between like the people, and so if you're a member of Tova in Hong Kong, you can attend events in Singapore and vice versa, and so you kind of meet the community everywhere you go. And the next city that we're looking at will be London, from the same angle, where you know there's a lot of frequent travel between Hong Kong, London, Singapore, and so members can get the most value out of their membership.
Bangkok is the only thing that I'm thinking.
Bangkok's on the Bangkok's been brought up so many times to us, and we are very keen. We are acutely aware that Bangkok is the next major city in Asia outside of India.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, in India, what would you do? You do Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, like Mumbai for sure.
Probably just Mumbai to start. Yeah.
But it's just so big. Like, but it's weird though, right? Because Mumbai, from just a logistical standpoint, is so much larger than Singapore and Hong Kong. Like the one thing about Singapore and Hong Kong is that it's so manageable because it's so small and it's so compact. London is obviously a different animal. But then Mumbai introduces a whole bunch of other sort of complexities that don't exist. Yeah.
It depends what you call manageable, right? Like if we have, let's say, 2,000 people, we know we need X amount of venues and X amount of events. So, I mean, it's because we control the inflow, we can control the output as well. If we decided to take in 10,000 people in one shot, we'll probably struggle. But as long as we can control our inflow, we can easily control the experience and the output as well.
Just deal with me for 1 second. I want to just check something before I talk out of school. You know this better than I do. So Mumbai has almost 25 million people in it. That's like it's like a neighborhood in Mumbai. It's the size of Singapore or Hong Kong. I'm just trying to make you smile. But can I ask you this? As a tech company, what kind of KPIs do you give yourself to understand, and what kind of sort of data do you look at to understand? Like, are we making real connections? Is the curation really working? Are people really connecting, or are we just having attendance at events? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you know if it's working?
Yeah. Well, so I think it's a lot harder to measure, you know, if people are meeting the right people. I think that is almost a non-trivial problem, because everybody has opinions. And so at least the way we think is easier is to track repeat attendance. If I've come once and I liked it, I'll come back again. And so that basically becomes a proxy of the experience and the time you had and the people you met. We can also track if you start coming with people. And so, you're coming together as a group, that becomes like a really good proxy of like, okay, you know what, you met somebody and you come together with them.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm thinking in my head is, what if somebody goes there and then they meet somebody they really like? And then you know what I mean? Because that's a great way to connect. But then they just, so it worked. Sure. But then they don't come back because the reason why they went there is not the reason that still exists anymore. Do you know what I mean? So you've succeeded.
Well, okay. So the difference is that we have experiences and events which are unique. And so there is no real reason for you to not come back if there's like a fun jazz night or a fun party, which is happening nonetheless, right? And so we consider that, yes, there's a high chance that you'll meet somebody at a mixer or at a paddle event. But if you like playing paddle, you just want to come back to play paddle again, right? Like if you like jazz nights, you'll probably come back to the next jazz nights that happens because you like it for jazz nights. And so we do encourage people to come for the sake of event. Meeting people should be a byproduct and not the center point. And if that reframe for our members, it makes the whole process a lot simpler.
And how do you get feedback from the people that are actually attending these events? Is there an app that they do? Is there a form that they fill out? Like, how does that work? And then how do you accumulate that data and then use that data, whether it's with AI or some other methodology, to understand whether you're actually doing the right things, picking the right places, having the right events, and curating the right people?
So we have an app, we have the whole ecosystem in place, and we do ask for feedback after the event. So there's like the whole notification process, etc. And often enough, at least what we've seen is that people will leave feedback, and I think this is very generic as well. They'll leave feedback either if they're really happy with it or they're really not happy with it.
Sure, that's normal, right? Like if it sucks, they'll just be like 1, and if it's great, they'll be 5, but there's nothing in the middle, right? Like, it was okay.
Right. Usually that's the case, unless they feel some reason to communicate with us why it's like an average event. I think it's not that hard to just eyeball it, honestly. Like we could add AI and sure, but it's like the quantity of people who will actually leave feedback is significantly lower than the quantity of people who attend an event.
Fair enough.
So even if we've done like a 200-person event, exactly, we'll probably have like 2 people leave feedback, 2-3 people, and we don't want to overuse AI if it's not needed, right?
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
we can just eyeball it.
Are there things that you've learned about this online to offline behavior that surprised you or that you didn't understand before and that would be difficult for like another social platform to replicate? Like even if you look at, and again, I don't want to get back to dating per se, and frankly, I've not spent a ton of time or a ton of my life on dating apps, so I don't really know like how they work. I mean, just look at me. You can tell by looking at me. Like it just wasn't built for me. But what types of things have you learned from this that would be difficult for another conventional social platform to build?
I think the key thing why we think it works better than the average meetup.com or the average community platform is the vetting. And people really, really value having a curated crowd. Because I don't like it's about like people think of it as like, is it worth my time, right? Like that's the basic question anybody's asking. And so if I know for certain that the people I'm meeting have been somewhat filtered, right? There's a much higher chance of converting. And so when people do public communities, let's say there's like a Pilates group, right? Or like a paddle community. Yes, you'll have people who will come just for the sport. But when Tova does it, there's a slight difference because now you also trust that the crowd is going to be relevant to you and that you're going to probably have a good time just chatting with people. And so I think it's all about the trust mechanisms and the trust levers that you can pull. And for us, vetting and profiling, profiling may be a little strong word,
but I understand what you mean.
Crowd. I think that has been pretty fundamental. And so even going in, we wanted it to be vetted. There's also like the safety angle. Like we do events which are obviously mixed gendered and there's like alcohol involved. And we have like safety is like a really core tenet of our community. And people will report other members. We've even gone to the extent of removing people from the community if people have reported, and it holds up. So we are very conscious about how we curate the crowd and how quickly we are to remove people causing trouble. So I think those are pretty important, and to get it right from the start makes a big difference downstream.
Got it. One more thing. Do you mix groups, right? You mentioned Pilates, and then you mentioned some other thing, paddle, I think it was. I can't remember.
Sure.
But do you mix those groups together, or do you try to make it so that like all the paddle people are together because that's the thing that they love to do, whether it's a paddle event or not? Do you know what I mean?
So it's slightly different. I mean, we have events happening all the time, and we like to encourage people to try something new. So we try and keep it friendly. Like if you've never played paddle before, you should probably join the paddle social that's happening. And so it's not just like hobby-based groups. We have that, but the idea is that you can also go to the one-off event and experiment and see if you like it, meet the people there. And so it's slightly different. We have people who come to everything. It's not that all events happen the same time as well, so that they, we can do that cross-pollination. It's more like, it's staggered through the week. And so people can just do whatever they want.
How many events are you normally doing weekly?
We've done 4 to 5 events every week.
Oh, wow.
And so sometimes it's like a very busy weekend can be 5 events on a weekend.
Oh, wow.
There's a bunch of things happening. Yeah.
That's a lot. Okay. That's super cool. Okay, man, I'm going to let you go. Pranay, it was super great to have you on the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Really appreciate it, Mark.
Hopefully you'll be home soon. You're not one of jet lag that's insane.
Soon, yes. And I was also telling Martin that if you guys are ever in Singapore, and I mean, because we have events all the time.
I feel like it's our second home. Of course, we're in Singapore. He told you we're in Singapore all the
time.
Right,
yeah, he was. Right, exactly. And so if you guys, if we have events happening all the time as well, we'd be really happy to extend an invite to you guys to join and see the vibes.
That would be awesome. I'd love to experience that myself.
For sure.
Okay,
amazing.
Man. Thank you.
Right. Thanks so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. Really appreciate it. Bye for now, man.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. We had a lot of viewers and a lot of listeners today live. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. That is it today for AGTP Insights for Thursday, August 20th. Give us a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and it makes me smile. So do that as well. And follow us on all of our socials, on X, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. And we love interactivity. If you're watching live, don't be shy. We know you have questions. Ask us a question. Leave questions if you're watching the video later. If you're not watching it live, leave us questions and comments there too. We'd love to comment on those and interact. We'll be back again on Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and then back again the following Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Please come back. My name is Michael Waits. I'm going to say goodbye for now. And thank you to Martin.